7:05 p.m. on...
This conference will now be recorded.
Guys, I'd like to call this meeting to order. It is 7:05 p.m. on April 29th, Wednesday. It is a special meeting of the Architectural Review Board. We are doing it via video conference GoTo. I'd like to introduce all the different ARB members who are on tonight. We have Marianne Castell, Sherry Green, Allison Hughes, Rita Gadsden, Sean Brown, David Riley, and David Humphrey. Our one member, Kate Perez, is on tonight, but she has reclused herself for she's presenting and part of the Baywater property presentation, so she will not be participating tonight, but will be listening on behalf of Baywater. I want to ask you guys to all go on mute, or if you're not on mute and don't have the ability, to please not say anything until you're called upon. I'm going to go through presenter one by one, and at the end of each presentation, I'll go through and call on you individually, and you'll each have a chance to ask questions. In addition, as things come up through the chat, and you want to bring it up to me, you're through the conference, you're able to chat me on the sidebar there and send me your own message or send a message to the group without actually having to interrupt the presentation. Are there any questions to start?
Where's the sidebar that you just referred to?
There's a chat button in the top right corner of all your hands. It looks like a little think box. It's all white little think box that you can chat on.
Little round white circle.
And it goes to everyone on the thing unless you otherwise specify.
Okay.
Remind them to say the name when they speak.
All right. Starting with the agenda, we are going to, the first on the agenda is ARB 02-2016. It is Old Town Hall Homes at 719 Boston Post Road. We approved this application back in 2016, and they're coming back with modifications to the presentation. Speaking on behalf of them should be Todd McCluthie. Todd, if you're on, please introduce yourself, say what your role is to the project. Please spell your name slowly for everybody and start with your presentation. Todd, you're on mute. I gotta take you off mute. 1 second. Hold up. You're still on mute. Fred? There you go.
All right. Can you hear me okay now?
We've got you, Todd. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Todd McCluthie. It's the last name is spelled MCCLUTCHY, and I'm the co-developer with the Darien Housing Authority on the redevelopment of the Old Town Hall Homes property located at 719 Boston Post Road. We have been working on the redevelopment of this property for the last several years. And hopefully everyone has had the opportunity to drive by and see the progress with construction over there. I know this gives you just a quick update as to the construction. The building is totally enclosed right now. The siding is going on. We are finishing up some of the interiors right now. So we expect, even with the present conditions, to be completed with construction by the end of July. So we can have occupancy beginning no later than the beginning of August. And we hopefully that is a time where people feel a bit more relieved about moving around and moving into their new homes there. And I'm here tonight to present a modification to what was originally presented back in 2016. The modification that we are requesting this evening is to add solar panels to a portion of the roof. This somehow this was something that had always been contemplated as being part of the project. It was actually even part of our financing package. Apparently, it did get left off as part of our initial approval process, and that's why we are back here this evening to present that. And is the screen sharing working?
It is.
Yep.
Okay, so sorry, bear with me for a half a second and I will pull up, hopefully, the right thing here. Okay, so can everybody see just the first page?
Yes.
Okay. So again, we're here to talk about Old Town Hall Homes. The new name of it's going to be the Royal at Darien. The building is identical to what you had all seen and approved previously. The first slide that you're looking at here identifies two smaller red areas, which we will be able to zoom in on in a minute. Those will be the locations for the new solar panels that we're looking to install. And let me orient everybody to the location of these solar panels. So in the top left-hand corner, if everyone can see the mouse moving along here.
Yep.
Can everybody see that okay? So that is the Boston Post Road side. This street along the left side of the page, which is also the west side, is Academy Street.
Todd,
And
Todd, can I ask you to go into a larger presentation mode so we can see the thing larger? Or are you able to do that from your computer?
I think if you go to view along the top bar, there'll be an option for full screen.
Got it.
Do you see? Yeah.
Oh, gosh. I was the guinea pig here.
No, it's okay. No, it's okay. This is great. I mean, it's fine as is, but it might help what you're doing if you do full screen.
Excuse me, go to slideshow and start the slideshow.
There we go. All right. So slideshow going into there. Start from the beginning.
Thanks, Sean. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Okay.
Much better?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Even I can see it better now. Great. So again, this side is the Boston Post Road. This is Academy Street. There are two small-ish solar arrays identified in the red there. Here's a closer view of those locations. So they are located between the eaves on the building, and this is the long side of the T of the building. Again, going back into the site, these will not be viewable from the Post Road, and they are well hidden on the roof line there. So this is a small array. It's about 16 kilowatts. Here are a few perspectives of it. So you will not be able to, the first one on the top, on the left-hand side of the page here, this is driving down Academy Street. You will not be able to view them driving directly down Academy Street due to the roof line. You will be able to see them in the right-hand side of the page. Oops, sorry. How do I minimize this? You'll be able to see it if you come off of, directly if you're coming off of Highland, taking a right or a left onto Academy Street, and they will appear as they are there between the eaves.
So what you're saying, Todd, is when you're back in the neighborhood on the north side of these buildings, if you take a right as you're coming down Academy towards the Post Road, you'll be able to see them. Coming south on Academy, you'll be able to see those. But you won't be able to see those when you go north on Academy up towards the housings.
You won't be able to see them going north or south. You'll be able to see them coming off of Highland going east.
Okay.
And the left-hand page is that view coming down Highland, looking directly at where the old entrance and where the new exit is going to be.
Can you circle that with your mouse? Show what you're talking about exactly? And
So
that
right where
there
that
is the
car
view.
is where the exit will be, and where the mouse is, that is coming east off of Highland, looking at the long side of the building that runs parallel to Academy Street, and that's where it will be viewable. You will be able to see solar array.
Okay.
And again, just looking at the other ones, you don't see it, again, only if you're coming off of Highland. And the right-hand page is going north up Academy Street as you're coming off the post road. And again, they're not visible from that particular location.
Okay, is that it? Because I'm gonna dive into
Yep.
questions. I don't want to cut you off. I'm gonna dive into questions.
Yes, that's it, and we can definitely dive right into questions and
Okay.
try to respond to anything you have.
I'm gonna ask you a first question that I've kind of dialogued with the ARB ahead of time. Is why did you choose this location as opposed to doing panels on the maybe the eastern side of this roof building or an ulterior side that you couldn't see it at all from a residential?
The solar arrays have to be on this side to optimize the rising of the sun. Because on the other side, because of the way the pitch is, and also the direction it's facing in, the solar array would not be effective from that perspective.
Got it. Okay, thanks, Todd. ARB members, I'm going to go through here one at a time and call on you guys. If you have questions, you can take yourself off mute when I call on you and ask questions one at a time. You don't feel obligated to have questions, but ask away, and we can circle back to you if more things come up. Starting up with David Riley.
Yeah, hi. One thing I'm a little curious on is, I mean, it's a pretty large facility, and this is 14.4 kilowatts. And first of all, I applaud the use of renewable energy in whatever capacity. But I am curious as to why you didn't increase the amount of coverage by also putting more of these panels on that roof, because there's more roof area. And looking at the partial roof plan, if you go to the left, I believe there's some more roof area. And I don't consider it objectionable to be seeing these panels when coming off of Highland Avenue. On the contrary, I find it good to see these things being employed. So what, is it just purely economics as far as the amount of coverage that is currently being designed for, or are there other reasons?
Yeah, so there was a couple of different reasons that we took that into consideration. The western side of the building is the optimal location for the solar array. And if you recall, when this building was being designed, we actually had a drop. So the furthest part north, on the north part of the building, has dropped down to 2 stories.
So on the roof plan, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so the roof plane is actually lowered over there. It would, in fact, be more visible, and also it creates an area of shade because of the lower roof line on the north side of the building.
And then the stepping in as it goes up, rather than a rectangular configuration, and that's because of the shadow lines of the dormers across
Exactly.
the Okay. All right.
That's correct.
Yeah,
And the only other opportunity that we had to pick up some optimal areas for the solar was along the post road. We decided, we elected to leave those off. We thought it might be objectionable, and just to present a more cleaner finish to the post road side, which is really our entrance.
I agree on that point. I figured where they are being put is the best location, with regards to the view and the roof lines. And I was just seeing if there's any other way to maximize the amount of coverage, which I'm sure has been reviewed thoroughly with the installer. So besides that, solar panels being what they are, solar panels, I have no objection to having them put on there. I'll mute myself.
Dave, thanks so much. Those are great questions. Next up, Sean Brown. Any questions on your end?
Yeah, No, Dave covered it for me.
Okay.
Thanks.
Great, thanks, Sean. Leslie Macule? Leslie, questions?
No questions.
Got it. Kate, not Kate, sorry, Kate. Rita Gadsden? Nope. Allison Hughes?
No, I just wondered if the neighbors have been presented with this.
We have not done anything further with the neighbors related to the solar.
Will they be? Will they have to be? Or
No, it's not required.
We did not expect to have to present anything to the neighbors.
Yeah, Allison, I just got an interjection
know.
from Dave Keating here. Sorry to interrupt you, Todd, but Dave Keating here ruled in that said that they are not required to.
okay.
Sherry?
Thanks. Dave answered my question. I had the same question about the neighbors and the placement of the panels. So I'm good.
Great. Okay. Last, Marion Castell? Marion, I can't hear you. We lost you. Your mute is off, but.
Oh,
There you go.
sorry, no question.
Okay, great. All right, Todd, that's great.
Liz, could I
Yes.
ask a quick question?
Yes, please.
I can't recall the color of the roof shingles. So what would be the perceived look? I don't mind the solar panels. I just wondered how that they would contrast visually with the roof shingles.
Yes, so I forget the name of it, but it's and I'm pulling up a picture of the roof right now. It's a dark gray, probably some sort of timber shingle color, and these were meant to match as closely to that, so it would not, it would blend in seamlessly as possible along the roof line. You'll obviously still be able to identify that they are in fact solar panels, but the overall objective is that they blend in seamlessly and don't, contrast or take away from the overall architectural design.
Oh, good. That's great. That's great. Thank you.
Last question from.
And
Sorry, go ahead, Todd.
sorry, and there's, a representative of what the solar panel color looks like, even though it's rather small.
Thanks, Todd. Last questions, possibly from David Humphrey. Anything, Dave?
No questions.
Okay, great. Todd, that looks good. You got a favorable report from the ARB here. I will send you a letter. I'll put that in the mail as soon as possible, and you can proceed with things. Thank you for your time, Todd.
Thank you, everyone, for your time. Glad this worked out well.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate it. Jeremy, if we could, Fred, if we could lose his screen share and pull up the group. Guys, moving on, we have next up is ARB number 6, 2020. It is the Oxridge School at 395 Mansfield Avenue. Amy Samuelson will be doing the presentation, I believe, for these guys, possibly along with Randy Giraldo or just Amy. To refresh your memory, can we lose this? Oh, there we go. Thanks, Fred. To guys, refresh your memory, we've seen this presentation before, so Amy should be able to go through this pretty quickly. We did an informal discussion of this at our last meeting. We had some suggestions, some advisory points for them to expand on, and hopefully they've addressed that. And beyond that, hopefully there shouldn't be any new big changes that are coming up that are surprising us here. It should be a pretty seamless presentation. So with that said, Amy, are you there? Do you want to start?
Sure.
Hi. Introduce yourself. Please spell your name and say what your relation is to the project, and go from there. Thanks, Amy.
Certainly. Let's see. I'm just trying to make sure I'm sharing in presentation mode.
Great. Thanks.
There we go.
Okay.
I hope that's correct. So my name is Amy Samuelson.
I haven't met with your group yet, but I am the project manager for the SLAM Collaborative, the architecture firm for the Oxridge Elementary School. Also on the call with me tonight are two of the team members who did present at the informal meeting with you, Kemp Morehart, project principal in charge, and Dean Ober, the architectural designer.
Could you do me a favor, Amy? Sorry to interrupt you. Can you tell me, spell Kemp Morehart's name and the two gentlemen you just referred to?
Sure. So Morehart is M-O-R-H. I might actually. Let me look.
Okay, I got it.
I'll say it.
I got
you
it.
Say it. Yeah, thanks, Kemp.
I'll spell it. First name is Kemp, K-E-M-P. Morehart, M-O-R-H-A-R-D-T.
And your relation, again, Kemp?
I'm the principal in charge for the SLAM Collaborative architect on the project.
Thank you, Kemp. And who else is on the call?
This is Dean Ober, D-E-A-N. Just a correction on my last name spelling I see on the screen. It's O-B-E-R.
Great.
And I'm architectural designer for the project.
Great, guys. Thank you all for identifying yourselves. Okay, Amy, you can go ahead.
Sure. So I'm actually going to turn it over to Dean to walk us through the slides. And hopefully you can see the next slide. My screen is jumping. Is yours, does it look like it's jumping to you?
It's jumping a little bit, and it's not in full presentation mode, Amy.
Okay. I'm hitting resume slideshow.
I see it jumping.
Yeah.
That's okay, Amy. You know what? We've seen...
Wait, I got it. There it is.
Okay. Great.
Can you see that now? And this is the site plan. Can you see the site plan on the screen?
Unfortunately
No.
not.
You lost it. It went to Technicolor bars.
Okay, wait a minute. I'm going to try sharing the entire screen.
Okay. No worries, Amy. We understand this stuff. There's always technical fun at the beginning here.
Yeah.
Great. We got you,
Is that
Amy.
any better?
Yep. You did it. Good job.
Okay.
There you go.
So that should be the site plan on the screen, and I'll let Dean go ahead.
So we're talking about the new Oxridge Elementary School. If you can follow along with some of the text on the building, I'll talk about that first. To the left-hand side is the cafeteria gymnasium component, which we're calling the assembly wing. Thank you, Amy. Directly adjacent to that on a slightly upward level is the administrative component and the entry component, which is kind of indicated by the star. I should point out that the second star is a secondary entry that relates to the bus drop-off. So what we really have is two entrances that relate to parent drop-off at the upper lot and a bus drop-off secondary entry related to the bus drop-off component there. You can see that queue of buses along that long stretch of pavement there. Parent drop-off, again, Amy was using the cursor to indicate parent drop-off there. We've developed a two-story academic wing. We're calling them pods. There are 3 pods, 2 different levels. They are associated with grades, and they are kind of linked together to create kind of that donut shape with a 1-story ELP wing, which is the early learning program. There is an early learning program playground associated with that wing. And to the very left-hand side of the screen, there is open space and playgrounds associated for the elementary school. The site slopes from the entrance to the left-hand side of the open space quite steeply. This has allowed us to kind of create these plateaus. The open space and the playground exists on a plateau. You can kind of see the shading there. That is a slope that brings you up to the next plateau, which is the parking lot and that assembly wing. That line of trees that Amy is indicating now is the next kind of slope that brings you up to the upper parking lot. So the upper parking lot looks down onto the lower parking lot. The lower parking lot looks down onto the open play space. We've done our due diligence to try to take some of the larger volumes and put them on that lower plateau so that the two-story volumes, gymnasium and cafeteria, which are usually taller, feel a lot shorter. We've also placed the two-story academic pieces down on the site. That part of the site slopes as well. So those two-story academic wings also are the whole building is meant to feel like it fits into the site and smaller.
Okay.
Kip, if you have anything to add to this, I welcome you to do so. If not, we can move to the next slide.
Great.
So this is a rendering kind of from the approach or from the entrance. This is the first turn that you'd make as you approach the building. This is that upper parking lot. So we've just come down from the egress to the street or ingress from the street to the school. The entry gesture is that large kind of glass box in the center. That is a entry gesture. To the left-hand side, you can see the ELP and kind of the little blue squares begin to create bollards that prevent you from driving to the playground. But we try to create lower spaces here on the parking lot, and those are the two administrative zones on either side of the entry component there. And you can see the gymnasium gets pressed down into the hill in this rendering. Again, this is an approach shot to the main entrance. It's kind of taken from the parent drop-off as you would approach the school. We're trying to use the signage and these blue portals as entry gestures or as gestures of entrance. We're using that same blue in other places in the building, to signify entry. But you see this is a transparent box, a lantern that would actually light up at night subtly. If you look into the brickwork, you can see that we have tried to create protrusions. We pulled out a series of bricks to give the facade some texture so that in shade and shadow, this building has a little bit more life to it rather than just a standard brick wall. We've also used a cast stone head here over each one of the windows. This is kind of a traditional look, which we think helps the administrative components here on either side of the entry gesture. Also, you can see closely if you look at where you enter, there are some bollards. There's some concrete piers that are part of the landscaping. They kind of are anchored to the ground as security measures, so that one is not able to simply jump the curb and drive right at the building. Those are scattered across the sidewalk in front of the entrance. You kind of see we have students sitting on them. The entry plaza there has a paver unit, which is a little bit different than the sidewalk to help delineate the entrance to the building. We're also employing planting in front of the building so that you don't walk right up to the window, but you're held away from the building by the landscaping. This is the bus entrance. This is walking from the lower parking lot to the entrance of the gymnasium, what we're calling the bus entry. This has a canopy associated with the entry. When you get off the bus, you're under cover. There was some discussion last time about the columns. As the design has progressed, the entry canopy at the main entrance has gone away. And this entry canopy seems to be more functional as it provides cover for the students as they get off the bus. We've gone to a single column which is pressed back so that we've kind of tried to negate some of the issues that we had with too many columns. I think we feel that this provides a clearer path for the students to get off the bus, quickly move to cover, and then move to the entrance. You can see we've used a series of smaller blue columns to help act as identifiers to entrance. So, like I said, anytime we use signify entry, we use a blue gesture. We've employed a clear story. This is a polycarbonate material that is slightly opacified so that it lets in muted light into the gymnasium. and we have used screening right above the door to help hide much of our mechanical units. We've also employed a pattern in the brick here, which is called an Ombre pattern. It is a two-color brick. We have used accent and body brick or main brick throughout this project into the classroom pods and an ELP. So really what we have here is a building that kind of grows out of the ground, and we think this helps root the building to the ground and uses those two bricks in kind of a playful way that we think speaks of an elementary school. There you get a better sense of what that Umber pattern is, kind of the gray brick at the base that fades into the body brick or the main brick right there to the right-hand side of the rendering. There's the 4 columns I said that act as signifiers to the main entrance. You can see that the columns to the colonnade are pushed back so that when you get off the bus, you're moved directly under cover and you're not moving through a sea of columns, but undercover right to the main gesture. And we have tried to play up the main entrance with a wood soffit or a wood look soffit above the entrance that give both entries kind of a bit of a grander feel that's has a bit of a different relationship than the kind of workman-like aspect of the canopy to the left. As we move around the building, we're now looking at kind of the tail end of the building, or the building that you would begin to see, the view would begin to see from the open space or the playgrounds at that lower level. This is the cafeteria. We're using that same wood look piece here to soften the soffit and the walls as you look out of the cafeteria. This has a very transparent look so that you do capture the view out of the cafeteria to the playgrounds. There's a patio outside of the cafeteria for outdoor dining and spill out that could be used for classroom space as well, or teaching space as well. And directly adjacent to the patio area is a garden, which is part of the curriculum. There are raised garden beds, and we really like the idea that this could be perhaps be used with the school as a farm-to-table type aspect, but it does have an educational feature to it. Directly adjacent to the box of the cafeteria is an egress or an ingress point to the building. Again, we have a blue column signifying entry. This is allows students to go to the playground and into the building in the morning. And we've created a series of steps here that acts as a mini amphitheater and a gathering space for a class of students and some outdoor teaching, and begins to connect you to the backside of the building.
Okay.
I think we only have 1 or 2 left. This might be the last one. This is kind of the corner, the southeast corner of the building. You begin to see on the left-hand side the 2-story classroom pod. There's a walkway or a drive that moves around the entire building to allow for fire access and apparatus to move around to the back of the building. There's a retaining wall here. We're using a large block to create kind of a stone wall effect. Again, we're providing planting to soften that. And you begin to see that the materiality of the classroom pod and the materiality and arrangement of the ELP begin to have a language with the window shape, the sunshade, and the accent brick in between each window. So the relationship between the ELP is very reminiscent of the classroom pod as well. We do have a series of pictures of the samples, of material samples that we're using. I purposely did this rendering to show you some of the subtleties of that brickwork. We're using, I said, that cast stone head over the window. There's a soldier course of brick that links the window heads together. And there you can begin to see underneath the soldier course, and as it relates to the mullions, a protrusion that I said adds that level of texture to the facade. Further, we have a brick sill that kind of has a relationship with the soldier course that ties heads together, and you begin to see a soldier course and more protrusions at the top to kind of create a capital per se to this wall. And in this rendering, you begin to see like you're not able to directly walk up to the window, that the landscape is acting as a buffer between the sidewalk and the building itself. Here's some of the materials. I apologize for some of the angles in the crude shots, but there's the cast stone and the body brick or the main brick, a sample of the mortar that would be used, and there's the accent brick, which is that kind of gray brick, and its mortar as well. So we're trying to create these red and gray walls that kind of link and weave together. The material that is in between each window and the two-story piece that is also acts as cladding on the cafeteria is this metal panel. This is a 12-inch sample, so that is a 6-inch face with that reveal there. So we're trying to give a larger volume, a much more a smaller scale, one that feels perhaps more residential and more clapboard-like. The aluminum soffit is actually a wood look soffit. That was the piece underneath the bus entry and at the cafeteria. The mechanical screening, unfortunately that picture is turned the opposite direction. It runs horizontally, not vertically, the ribs, but it is a perforated metal panel that is the same color. Again, hard to see in that photograph of the same color as the metal wall panel, but it has a perforation so that you begin to see sky through that as that screens the mechanical equipment. And the last piece is the clear story at the gymnasium, which I said is a polycarbonate material. You can see that's got a slight opacity to it, so it's letting light in, but not necessarily glare onto the court.
Okay, great.
And now we're open
Hey, hold
to
on.
questions.
Hey, Dean, on the bus entry you have
Wait,
up
stop.
now.
Whoever's talking, can you please identify yourself and what your relation is? Thanks.
Oh, this is Sean.
Thanks, Sean.
Hey, Dean, on the bus entry you have shown on your screen here versus the pictures that we have in our packets, the handicap parking spaces have changed design, and you've removed the tree just to the left of the entry sidewalk there. Is that the correct drawing that you're showing on your screen, or is the one we have correct?
This rendering is correct.
Right. This is Amy. If I could explain, I didn't know that you had a different image. I apologize. I thought I sent this exact presentation, but we have been maximizing the number of parking spaces as we look ahead to the planning and zoning meeting, which is coming up on May 12th. And we recently received word from the superintendent of schools and the principal as to their exact faculty count. So we have been working to maximize the parking count, and that was one of the sacrifices we had to make on this location.
Sean, while you're on, do you have any other additional questions while you're on?
I got one for Amy.
Okay.
Amy, where are we putting the address for the building on this? Because normally I like to put it on the front door of the building right above the entryway. I usually like to ask, but this has got a long driveway coming in. I can't remember what we decided for signage with the team, the building committee up on the street.
Sure. So, I did pull the signage photo out of this presentation because we haven't developed the exact sign, Sean, but our intention is to replace the current sign in kind. It's designated again by the planning and zoning regulations to be a certain size, and it's a hanging sign, maybe 2 feet tall by, maybe 3 feet tall by 2 feet wide. And that's where we would put the sign and then 395, which is the number. the street number address for Mansfield.
So Amy, you guys will return at a later date to the ARB and present that sign, correct?
Yes, we will.
Okay.
Yep, absolutely. We do not intend for it to need any kind of ZBA approval. We think that it's going to be within the guidelines, but we do understand that that needs to go through this board. Sure.
Thanks, Amy. Sean, what else?
I'm good.
Sean Brown, you're good? Okay. I'm going to move along the list, guys, and call it the different members in the ARB. First, David Humphrey.
Yeah, just one quick question. The blue archway at the front entrance, is that a metal panel cladding?
It is.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, but no, overall looks fantastic.
Thank you. Just for reference, that's about 3'8" or 4 feet in depth, and it's intended to also collect the door swing so that when the door swings out, it's under that cover.
Okay. David Humphrey, anything else? Okay. Next up, David Riley.
Hi. Just a few questions on the materials. So the blue archway at the entrance, is that a metal panel system? And what, or is it like a more of a kind of solid monolithic material? What is that comprised of?
It is a metal panel system. I just did not include the paint chip, but it is a similar metal panel to the one that we've shown you.
Okay, but the panels themselves, though, would be the full width of, say, the face of that archway that we're seeing?
Yes. Yes.
Or would it be the 6-inch increments that you had shown otherwise?
6-inch increments would probably run vertically. Well, I shouldn't say probably. Will run vertically.
Any thoughts, Steve?
We talked about using a different size panel here as well. It's just a matter of economics. So I think that the 6-inch panel might become more of a 12-inch panel rather than the one with the 6-inch reveal in it. But it is effectively the same panel system, just a different color.
Yeah, I think maybe the larger spacing would benefit. I mean, to me, just I can see the 6-inch spacing on the the kind of the components that you're using it because of the mass of the components. But this being a kind of this portal, and in my mind, a portal is made up of components that could be stacked, similar to like large stones or something like that. Something that would give it kind of more of a sense of being assembled from pieces rather than being clad by something else. So
Agreed.
my I guess take on that is could that be even wrapped in metal in some way or made to seem more of a singular component rather than something that's assembled like from smaller pieces.
Mm-hmm. Right, a flat panel with less seams is, I think, the solution that you're suggesting.
That's the way it appears to me, and to hear that it could be made up of something of like the 12-inch vertical seams. It's like where would those seams occur, and would it make it look a little too busy? I think more of a larger sheet metal that is a powder coated material. Maybe like each of the verticals is 3 pieces that are perceived as being stacked rather than a bunch of vertical seams. That to me, at least my opinion, is that it would create more of an object.
That metal, that panel is, I think it's an IW4, and I know that they have, like I said, it comes in a 12-inch panel. I can investigate whether we could use a larger panel, so maybe a 24 or 36-inch piece to make it feel more monolithic. I think that's perfectly within the realm of expectation.
Okay. I mean, just from, and again, this is me coming in on it. Is that something in your discussions and the way that you're perceiving the processional aspect of going into this building would be an enhancement, or is that something that would be more of a deviation from this language that you're trying to put together with the various materials?
No, I'd see that as an enhancement. I agree with you that the portal should feel, like when you look at this rendering here that's on the screen, it does look as one big blue box. And I think moving to the larger panel would help to that end.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then a clarification on the materials, the view of the cafeteria. I don't know if you could switch to that real quick.
I think that's 6, Amy?
Sure,
7?
7. There you go.
Yeah, so that's the 6-inch metal panel system there.
That's
My
correct.
rendering, or I guess the packets that we got, it looks like it has more of a coping on the top, whereas this looks like kind of more of a box, which I actually prefer, that being kind of the material just goes up and stops without a cap. The rendering that we received almost looks like a cast cap, or you can see the fascia cap over the red brick. Is there a similar component on those elements that use the metal clad?
So we'll be using a metal coping, and it carries, as you can see, from the metal above this doorway all the way across the brick. That's intended to be the same color as the metal panel. So in a box like the cafeteria, I think you'll almost not read it.
Yeah, to me, I think that's an improvement from the rendering that we received in our packets. So good.
Great.
All right, that's all I have.
Thank you.
Sure.
David Riley, that's
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you so much. Next from the ARB, I'm going to ask Leslie McAlay if she has any questions. And after Leslie, I'm going to be calling on Rita. Hi, Leslie.
Hi, I have 2 questions, please. If it looks like from one of the photos that you did in your presentation, it looked like at the bus drop-off you had taken out that wall that we were concerned about at the last meeting. Before you had a wall with like a cutout of a circle.
Yes.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
So that photo that you the one before, that is the new design.
Right. And we tried to make that, there was concerns about transparency. I think this is a much more transparent piece. I do like kind of the 4 sticks signifying entry rather than kind of one. And I think this is a better resolution to that concern. Yeah.
Definitely. And then my other question was, I didn't see anything about the rain garden in the first parking lot.
The rain, we can go to the site plan. The rain garden is still there. You can see it in the rendering there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think I do have some slides with some landscape, the elements that are in the landscape, but we're trying to minimize in the interest of time for your long meeting tonight. But yes, there will be a bioswale in this location between the parking area and the parent drop-off. And then again, in the courtyard, there's an additional area for bioswale and rain garden collection.
I think if you move to the next rendering, Amy, you might see that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe 4.
Oh,
there you go.
On the left here. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a slight hint of it anyway.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Thanks, Leslie. Okay, next it's Liz Geiger again. Next we're calling on Rita Gadsden. After Rita will be Allison Hughes. Thank you.
Hi, I have a couple of quick questions, please. In the pods for the classrooms, you introduced a design element which is a sunshade over select windows in the classroom pods. And my question is, is that actually a design element, or are you concerned about too much solar gain in the actual classrooms?
Both, to be honest with you. We're trying to control glare and too much collection of sun there. It can become a hindrance in a classroom. In the layout of the building, maybe Amy, you can go to the site plan. It was my best.
Mm-hmm.
So the two-story academic pod at the bottom of the page faces due south, and the two academic pods there face due west. So you will get afternoon sun through that. We thought that we might be able to mitigate that with some of the forest there to the left, but we really want to try to control that, and then that did become a design element, that brow. We also tried to actively make the building a tool to teach the children, so that you can point to something and say that is controlling how much light is coming into your building, so that you can see I'll date myself here and say blackboard, but so that there are elements to the building, architectural elements to the building that we're purposely using to help teach kids about their world.
Right, and I'm just going to add to that response that in addition to all of the design reviews, we also have an energy modeling consultant. And so as we look at elements of the building that do control daylight, we also look at the amount of daylight coming in and make sure that we're maintaining optimal amounts to mitigate the use of electric lights during the day as well. So we have 35% opening in the typical classrooms, and that's an intentional percentage that we've been working with to make sure that we optimize the daylighting.
It's pretty fascinating. I mean, it almost in a way it looks like a modern day version of canvas awnings that might have been put up during the academic year. You're going to try to control the sunlight. So what are they actually made of, the sunshades?
They're metal, and they're actually a component of the window system that we've selected. So they are made with the window system, and they're an accessory to the mullion.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about the window, it's two arms that come out, and then it's a series of blades. And I don't want that. I use that word with trepidation. It's not sharp, but it's almost like a little. If you cut it in a section, it's a little football shape, and then those blades are angled to help control the sunlight.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I see. So it may not become a favorite bird nesting spot because it's got a curve to it?
That's exactly right.
It's curved and also slotted. It's not a solid
okay.
shape.
Yeah, it's not the rain would move right through that, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's good.
Amy,
okay.
and
another quick question.
Amy, wait, before they move on, one other question from Dave Riley on that same subject matter.
Okay.
Dave Riley, do you want to
okay, sure.
interject that question?
Well, I think you partially answered it as I was in the process of typing it. It was unclear to me if those extended into the classroom or not, to act as a light shelf to bounce light off of the ceilings for more indirect and kind of pushing the light further into the classroom. It looks like they're just to the exterior. Is that correct?
That is correct, but we also have a light shelf on the interior. So the transom, the windows that are up high, we are using a light shelf to bounce the light further into the space.
Oh, cool. Okay.
That's gypsum board. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Rita, you can continue. I'm sorry about that.
Okay, two more questions. In the areas of the entrances where you have indicated in your rendering these warm wood-looking soffits, as we're not actually there to see it, do you feel that it's a pretty convincing substitute for a warm wood soffit?
Yes, we've used this material on another recent project, and it's quite remarkable, actually, how well this does as a wood look.
Okay, good, because it says, it says aluminum, and then I just can't quite picture that. So, all right, and my final question is, in the glass box entrance where you have the large letters, Oxbridge, are you comfortable with, in the rendering, the elementary school words, the lettering seems a little, they're smaller, and so they're not quite as bold as the main Oxbridge lettering. So are you happy with that? Do you think that visibility would be an issue?
I think that's intentional, to be quite honest with you. I as everybody refers to this school, it's, where does your son go? Oxbridge. Where's the voting? Oxbridge. No one says Oxbridge Elementary School. So we purposely made Oxbridge larger, as that is kind of the touchstone, and then indicated that it was, in fact, its use elementary school in a smaller text below. And I think that'll become more and more obvious, from this view. We're 10 feet in the air, but I think as you move closer and closer to the entrance, you'll see that text. And I think I shouldn't say think, that was done on purpose.
Good. All right. Okay. Thank you.
Rita, I appreciate that. Great questions. Thank you so much. Next up is Allison Hughes and then Sherry Green.
No questions, Liz.
All right. Thank you, Allison. I appreciate it. Next up, Sherry Green. After Sherry is Marianne Castell. Sherry?
I just have two quick questions. I'm still confused on the material for the windows. What the material is?
They're aluminum framed windows with clear glass glazing.
Okay.
We do have some security measures on the glass as well, but without going into too much detail, I don't want to.
Okay.
That's a low E glass too. So again, glare and transmittance through the glazing is mitigated to a degree.
Okay, thank you. And my second question is, the Ombre Brick, is that just back where the buses come in? And that doesn't wrap around anywhere else? It's just right there that
It's
you're
on
showing?
it's on the front face of the gym.
Right.
It's on this wing behind the bus here on the right-hand side.
Okay.
And it does wrap the corner for a small section, maybe 20 feet, right where Amy's got the cursor.
Okay, on that backside, but it doesn't come
Right.
around and join the front at all?
No.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
It's truly meant to be a face gesture.
Right, I understand that. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. Okay, last on our board, we have Marianne Castell, guys. Thank you.
I'm delighted with the canopies on your pods and how you've developed the whole lighting issue there. And you answered one of the questions, which is the UV protection. And I'm wondering also, you don't have fluorescent lights inside, do you?
No,
LED.
correct. It's all LED.
Okay. The other question I had is a material question here in your slam section. And it looks like it's some pavers with a metal strip of bumps going up the side. It's in the lower section on the materials, on the material section.
Roof screen, where it says roof screen?
No, it says it
there.
says Unit 3 pavers in gray and brown, and there are two pictures next to it. One is that's the one right there.
Yes.
Can I show it with is that showing up with you, my cursor? I'm wondering what that is and how that fits in. I didn't understand it.
Sure. This is actually a section that we had shared in case you were wondering about the site materials. And we do have concrete sidewalks, traditional concrete sidewalks for the most part. But then at the entry, and you'll see where my cursor is, I think you can see, this is the main entrance of the building. And then down here again at the bus entrance, there will be pavers in a blend of colors. These are the standard colors that the product comes in, but we'd be selecting the gray color, limestone gray, to match some of the building elements, and then brown or tan colors to blend with that, just at the entrances.
What are the little bumps? What are the spots with the bumps going up there?
Oh, I'm sorry. Here, this is a specialty crosswalk
Is for
paver.
sliding, for slipping or something?
It's for indication for those sight impaired to feel that they're nearing the driveway. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And in terms of all of your flat paving, you're doing several different styles of. Are you going to use somewhat the same way you're putting the paving together, so it has some unity, or are they all going to be slightly different?
So I'm going to go back to a rendering that I think has a bit of the pattern showing. Difficult to see, but the intent is for a specialty paving pattern right at the entrance only. Otherwise, it's just a concrete sidewalk.
Okay, and that goes through the there are other pavements too.
That's correct, at the other entrance.
Playgrounds and all the rest of the stuff too. Is there some continuity between the colors? I know some look very brown and others are gray between the different paving elements.
Right, so the photos that you're seeing on the materials page is just a sample, it's a photograph of the product at a different building. But we'll be selecting just 3 out of all of those colors, and they will be complementary to the brick tone of the building, as well as to the gray brick.
My question, to have some unity, it wasn't clear. All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, that's everyone through the ARB. Does anybody else have any other questions? If you do, you can unmute yourself and ask one at a time. If anything else has come up in the meantime. No, great. All right, Fred, you can remove the screen sharing. That wraps up the presentation for Oxbridge School. Amy and Dean and can't remember who was else on your call. Amy. And Kemp, thank you guys. Based on the feedback here, it looks like you've gotten a favorable report. Congratulations, good presentation.
Thank you.
The one feedback or thing that I will note in my letter to you guys is to that consideration about using a larger panel at the front entrance to make more of a monolithic look there, like was discussed.
Okay.
Yep.
I hate this thing.
Okay. And someone's off mute that I can hear. Sorry. The last thing that I'll add to you guys to note, when you return to us, you'll be coming back with a signage plan at a later date. We look forward to seeing you then. And as part of that signage plan, I didn't see any plan for the lighting on the site as a whole, a larger lighting plan. So if you guys could include that when you come back with your signage plan, we'd appreciate that.
We don't have to waste time here. Exactly.
Okay, will do. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Okay. ARB members, we're moving on quickly as time's getting away from us here. ARB number 9 is up here. It is the Kumon Map Building at 899 Boston Post Road. They are proposing an awnage and signage. I believe Carrie O'Brien is presenting on behalf of Kumon. Carrie, if you are on, say hello. Please show your video if you have it. And please introduce yourself, spell your name, and say your relation to Kumon and the project. And please go from there. Hi, Carrie.
Sure. Hi. Thank you. Carrie O'Brien. Did you say spell it? KerrieObrien. I'm the owner of the Kumon Map and Reading Center in Darien on 899 Post Road.
Great.
And I presented back in 2016 for an awning on the back parking lot, which was mostly approved, and asked for a couple extra pictures and a couple modifications. So we went ahead and did that, and I resubmitted pretty much the same application with a letter from 2016 with the couple changes that were asked. So I can share the application.
Do you have, if you share your screen, do you have your pictures, and you want to run us through a brief summary of your proposal one more time, and also discuss what those changes are to refresh the board's memory?
Sure. So I'll just flip through here. Let me go to a picture probably shows it the best. Let's see. Sorry, they're all sideways here. So this is a picture, as you can see from the side. The letter from 2016 had asked specifically for a couple things. One of them was that we matched the Caldwell banking awning as far as like, so here's the rendering. It had asked for a picture of the two together. And we did that. They're both now 24 inches.
Carrie, I know this is, you might be limited with your computer technology, but is there any chance you can rotate your image? Do you know how to do that possibly? We all do have the pictures in front of us, but it helps when you show it. But if not, that's okay. We can move on for time's sake.
Yeah, no, I have no idea.
Okay.
I don't think there's a way to rotate the image.
Yeah, this isn't a PDF, so
Okay.
I don't think I can. So yeah, we'll just have to crane our neck sideways. So yeah, this is a picture of the two awnings together. It's actually the same company that's making both awnings. So they already had a lot of the specs. And then, so that's the picture you guys asked for. And then the other request was that the awning come out a bit farther, because originally it was, let's see, what's a better picture to show you? So now it comes out into the sidewalk. Before it was into those little side walls.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what to call them, but so we brought it out further. We put it into the sidewalk, and the fabric is exactly the same. It's also the same as my front awning, which is up and obviously approved. So this is not quite the same blue. It's actually a bit darker. And let's see, what else did you guys ask for? I think you asked for a couple of specific heights, so we added...
Carrie, let me interrupt you there. So you're saying that the size of this awning exactly duplicates that as your adjacent neighbor, Coldwell Banker?
Well, the height off the roof line is the same, but the protrusion wouldn't be, because we have different...
Stair length, okay.
You know, we have different depths of our stairs and such.
Okay.
But if I take the picture again that's together, you know, we tried to make them as matching and symmetrical as we could. So the height off of the roof line is the same.
Okay.
And that was really, I think, yeah, that's pretty much what I think the ARB had asked for, that we made a modification for.
And the Kumon sign's being done, it's printed in white on the blue sunbrella fabric, right?
Yes, and that's the same as the front awning.
Okay. I'm going to go through then. Anything else there, Carrie, or can I open it up to the ARB members if they have questions?
Please open it up.
Okay, I'm going to start with David Humphrey on the ARB, and then second up, I'm going to call to David Riley. So, Dave Humphrey, any questions?
Nope, no questions.
Great. Dave Riley's next. After Dave Riley, it'll be Sean Brown.
Yeah, I'm fine with the canopy as shown. I think totally replicating the shape of the Caldwell Banker is key for those to really kind of work off of each other. In the notes from ARB 32 2016, it also mentions the light fixture. Consider an alternate louvered light fixture that reduces the glare. It looks like the same light fixture is still shown in the renderings that you're showing us right now. Is there any plan to replace that light fixture with something that addresses that note on the previous review?
Currently, there's not. I did actually have an electrician come in, and it would be a fairly big job because there's no easy way to wire it, and it's all brick. I could look at it further, but it's probably pretty cost prohibitive to change that. I think the one of them is an emergency light, so that's required, and the spotlight, is going to be largely hidden underneath the awning, and it's not.
Okay, so the one that is right next to the Kumon sign, as it is, that is to be eliminated. That's an emergency light.
Correct. Yeah, that's required.
And then there's the two spotlights above.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow this canopy has to punch through in order for it to work. Yeah, I'd be a little interested in those lights. Because this entrance will be used in the dark, like during the winter months, correct?
Yeah, it's light enough now without the awning, but I think with the awning, the light will be even more directed down toward the stairs. So I'm actually hoping that it's even brighter once the awning is up.
What about glare, though? I mean, I think that was what the note was trying to address.
Well, there's not any glare now, so I'm not sure why it would create any glare. There's no glare on these lights now.
Okay, well, I'm just going by what was.
Yeah, I think what Dave's talking about is we just talked about the overall effect of that kind of light, that kind of an outdated, unenvironmental light there. Yeah, Dave, you bring up a good point. If other members on the ARB kind of feel that, we can kind of address that and circle back and say that was a overall taken point. But I'm glad you brought this up.
Fine with me otherwise.
Say that again, Dave. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. The canopy, I have no exceptions to the canopy. My only question was regarding the light.
That's great. Okay. So, okay, we'll maybe table that that thought for right now. Sean Brown's up next, and after Sean, it's Leslie. ARB members, I'd employ you all, if you guys do have comments about the light as this continues on, though, I would love you guys to participate that feedback so we can give Carrie one general answer how we all feel about that current light. Okay. Sean?
No comments from me.
Okay. Next up is Leslie Macaulay, and after Leslie is Rita Gadsden.
No comments from me. Thank you.
Thanks, Leslie. Rita, and after Rita is Allison Hughes.
Just a quick comment. The rendering of the awning, although it's similar to the Caldwell Banker awning, the way the awning interacts with the floodlights, I think, is probably not what it really will look like. Because in Caldwell awning, there's a sort of a cutout to accommodate their lighting, and in this rendering, it's just a minor point, but it looks like the lights are popping through the awning, which really probably isn't the realistic presentation of how the awning would address the lights. I do think you need the lights. I'm glad there are lights there. So,
Carrie, can you go to that page in your presentation? Can you show us I think it's page number 3, so we can see what Rita's talking about, what we're all talking about here.
Oh, the lights, sorry.
Yeah, yes, that might be better, yeah. That's a little bit better.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I don't know how much consideration was taken into the lights when they did the rendering itself.
Yeah,
this picture looks quite different from...
You can see them from that first picture.
This picture.
Is it the same fabricator as the Caldwell?
It is,
okay.
yeah.
Well, clearly, he's just not drawn it the way he'll actually do it, because it'll have to be some kind of a cutout to accommodate the fixture.
Right.
Yeah.
I did notice that the Caldwell awning comes forward of the gutter, because you've got a gutter there that's active. So it's going to come forward of the gutter, and then it has to work around the presence of the floodlights. So I don't think there's anything we can resolve tonight necessarily, but just note that this isn't exactly what's going to happen because of the lights.
Rita, based on what we did with Caldwell, do you have any suggestion on any suggestions or improvements there, or is that something that will be left to what the installer will, up to their discretion?
Yeah, I think if he's going to follow the model of Caldwell, he will make some accommodation for the lights. It's a great opportunity to have a nicer light there, but in the interest of economy, I guess, you can work around it.
Okay. That's great, Rita. I appreciate those comments. Okay. Next up, Allison Hughes. After Allison is Sherry.
My only request would be to put the number of the building above the Kuman letters. Coldwell Banker has their building address number. That's good.
Got it. That's a great suggestion. I'm surprised Sean did not comment on that. He's losing his game.
I was waiting for Rita to say something.
Okay, great. Next up, we've got Sherry Green, and after Sherry, we have Marion Castell. Sherry?
I have no comments. Thanks.
Thanks, Sherry. Marion, anything from you, Marion Castell? Marion, hold up. You're not on mute. Pause. You got to take yourself off mute.
There we go. Same thing, the number on the canopy and a softer light is my reaction.
Got it, Marion. That's great. Carrie, so I'm going to chime in here too. Lastly, I'm going to say I agree with the lighting issue. I know the economics of the building don't really lend to that, but I'm going to put in this letter to you. You've got 4 comments now from our ARB members, unless anyone else wants to still jump in. But you got half the ARB saying that they're not satisfied with the lighting choice in the back of that building. So while you're improving it, to address that. So I don't know what the economics are of that. If you go back and look at it, it's something that's really aggressive, then you can come and talk to the board. But I'm going to put it in saying that you're going to get a favorable report from us with one change to add the address above the letter. And also, second recommendation would be to address the lighting back there.
Okay. I'll certainly look into it further. The first comment I really received was it's not an easy thing to do.
Got it.
With the structure of the building.
Okay, I'll put that in the letter, and then if you come back and you get some numbers and it's just really out there and it's going to be a huge problem, then let's discuss that. We can kind of review that through planning and zoning, with the planning and zoning's help and the help of Dave Keating here.
Also the building right next to the left, which I think is now Big Shots. I don't have a picture of that, but they put the lights in on the side, but I don't know how what the terms are for it, but they basically just took an extension off of some existing electrical source and put it under like a piece of molding to drop down and have, kind of jerry-rigged it, didn't do it.
Right, so they did like some rudimentary thing where they plugged in.
Yeah, so I can certainly look into that. It's not like it looks bad what's on their building. It's
Dave Riley or Dave Humphrey. I know you guys kind of deal with this a lot. Do either you guys have any comments about some sort of rough, lighting to kind of cheapen it, but kind of improve the lighting scenario back there?
Yeah, it looks like maybe you could run.
Dave Humphrey, can you say your name before you start talking and address who you are?
Sorry, yeah, this is David Humphrey. Looks like maybe you could use a little piece of metal conduit underneath the aluminum frame up against the building that would allow you to contract or to run a wire to move those lights a little bit. So that might be a compromise of moving it, but not going to the expense of actually opening up a wall.
I like that, Dave. That's great. Anyone else on the board? Anyone else have any suggestions here to help Carrie and keep her economics settled? I guess that's it. Carrie, that's great. I really appreciate your presentation. We love Kuman. You're a great addition to our town. Thank you for your good presentation. I will send you a letter of a favorable report from the ARB. I'll get that in the mail to you as soon as possible. Like I said, there'll be 2 suggestions in it. The first one will be about adding the address to the back, to the sign, I believe to the back. Is it in the front as well? Do you have?
I'm sorry.
Do you have an address on the front of your building as well, or is it just the back?
It's not on the awning, but it's on the door.
Okay, great. So an address on the back awning, and then also about some sort of improvement to that light within your economic budget. And if that's a problem, then like I said, we'll address that offline a little bit further.
Yeah. Okay.
Great. Thank you,
I'm certain I can do what they did next door. So if that works for everybody, I can look at that further.
Okay.
Okay.
I appreciate it. Carrie, thank you so much.
Okay. Take care. Thank you.
All right, members. Next up is ARB number 5, 2020. It's Bank of America building at 1034 Boston Post Road. This is a new site, a new location for Bank of America, not their current location. Speaking on behalf of Bank of America is our favorite, one of our favorites, David Genovese, because he's very familiar to the board. David, hi. I know you're a regular here, but do us a favor for this new format. Introduce yourself.
The bar is very low. I always say the bar is very low.
The bar is
very... doesn't mean much.
Please introduce yourself. Say what your role is in your company and the summary of this project. Thanks.
Sure. Hang on. I'm having these screen things pop up here. My name is David Genovese. I'm a principal of Baywater Properties. I don't need to share my screen just yet, but let's see. Back to you. I'm a principal of Baywater Properties, and I'm the developer of what we're calling the Corbin District, this area between 1020 Post Road and Exit 11, the Exit 11 ramp. So you have reviewed over time the various parts of the base building and the landscaping for the overall Corbin project. And since the time of receiving our final approvals from the ARB and the Planning and Zoning Commission, God, I'm drawing a blank. I have Corona brain right now. I'm sorry, but Environmental Protection Commission and all the other boards and commissions, we've now been pulling all the little pieces together to be in a position to carry out the project. And so just to give you kind of a high-level update, we are about on the 1-inch line to finalize the lease with Bank of America to relocate the Bank of America branch from 1120 Post Road to this site at 1044 Post Road. It's taken us about a year and a half to get it done. We've been working on it continuously, but we're finally there. And as part of that lease, Bank of America wanted us to get pre-approved all of the signage that is required of the lease. Normally, we would sign the lease subject to getting normal approvals on signage, but they're trying to dot every I and cross every T because of the fact that it's a really big deal for them to relocate a bank branch in this moment when they have actually a branch in place today. And their rent is quite low there, but it's much more space than they need. So to us, this was a really key part of the whole project. It's been a very kind of worrisome part just because we believe that being able to knock down the old Bank of America building and remove from the streetscape of Darien what we consider to be a pretty tremendous eyesore is of great benefit to the project and of great benefit to the town of Darien. As well, that building, as you will recall, kind of sits up high, so it doesn't really do anything for the street. And by relocating the bank and moving them to this location, we're removing a gas station, which isn't the most desirable use in a downtown, and we are able to knock their building down, which would come down as part of the project, and put proper street-level, pedestrian-friendly retail along the Post Road opposite the sport shop. So that's kind of how we got here. I'll now go to the presentation. We're going to share with you both the presentation of what Bank of America would like for signage, and also what we consider to be kind of minor changes to the basic buildings in what we'll call phase 1. So I'll walk you through this, and feel free to ask any questions that you may have. Let me just move these things. Can you see my screen now?
We can see your screen, David. Thank you. And by the way, David, I'm going to interject and let the members know that, like, right now I specifically just said ARB number 5, the Bank of America proposal, but when you're ready to lend into ARB number 8, your second proposal that covers buildings I, H, and K, which does also include Bank of America, you'll have to let us know.
Okay, yes, no problem. They're presented separately, so
yes,
we'll pause and regroup.
Okay.
So this is basically the Bank of America presentation. Oh, shoot, is it not going to let... Okay, here we go. Just to orient you, this is the basic Corbin project. Buildings D and E sit where the existing Bank of America branch is today, and building I, where we propose to put the bank, is here. This is where the Gulf Station is today. And this dark shaded area at the front along the Post Road is basically a new 4,000-foot space that's been designed for Bank of America, working with us and their architects and our architects. this just shows you a sign schedule. You have copies of this. I want to point out that the awnings that are specified on this drawing and this legend are not going to be in place. They decided to go without awnings on the branch. So, you can disregard that. And if you need us to send you a new copy of this, deleting that reference, we will. They've been going back and forth with us. We've had 2 different architectural groups working on this over the last few months, and so it's been a little confusing. But this is an interior, just showing you kind of the layout. This is the post road. This is the area alongside the drive-through, if you can see my cursor. And this is basically the office. It's a typical office, but they'll also have some money manager people in there, mortgage bankers. They want the reception to be on the corner, and they want an entrance on both sides, on Corbin Drive and on the post road, into this 24-hour vestibule that would have an ATM at the entry. Another view, just for background, this is where this space adjacent to them in the L, this will be combined into one space. This will be Barrett Bookstore. Actually, this space will be Barrett Bookstore, and that's already been worked out with Barrett to relocate, so we get to preserve the local bookstore, which we're excited about. And this is the signage. The upper portion of the image is the signage along the post road. That's the Bank of America logo with their flag insignia. That letter is 9 1/8 inch high, so it's in accordance with the regs. And there's a similar size sign on the Corbin side, which would give them a view toward the post road for passengers traveling down the post road toward Norwalk. I just want to move this. We may come back to you as part of the Corbin project, similar to what you reviewed for Federal Realty, where you did a district-wide signage package. We may do the same thing, request the same thing for your consideration.
Right.
And as part of that, we would like to be able to do more blade signs. We love the blade signs. We think they add character and texture to the downtown. Bank of America would like to put a blade sign here, but they didn't finalize the design, so we're not asking for permission for that now. We'll talk about that in connection with the overall district signage program.
Got it. So Dave, sorry to interrupt you, but so that was one of my questions. So you proposed 2 wall signs and a blade sign in this proposal, but the blade sign, then that's why we didn't see it in this package. You're
correct.
Okay, great.
Yeah, we couldn't get it agreed, and we thought we should just come to you with the total district signage. Honestly, we would not be bothering you with this application even at this point, but for the fact that Bank of America is basically refusing to sign the lease until we have everything approved. So this has been a very bureaucratic, tough process. And Dave Humphreys, you worked at JLL, right? Is he still here?
Yeah.
I think your firm does a lot of work with B of A, so you probably have a sense of just the battleship we're working with in trying to navigate, what we're trying to accomplish here. It's been super complicated.
Yep, it's tough.
It's really complicated. This is a calculation that just shows the area. So, but based upon the post road frontage and the Corbin Drive frontage, we have 136 feet of frontage. We would be entitled to 45.33 square feet of signage, or 22.66 square feet, and we're asking for 22.5 square feet per facade. So it's in accordance with the regs. And this is some detail on the signage. These are not lit signs, so they are, metallic plate, but they are not lit.
Okay.
And this is something I would very much like your feedback on. You see these frosted panes of glass.
Yes.
Not the prettiest sight. I'm just going to go back for a second. Bank of America would like to frost all of the glass, basically all of the lower level glass along the post road. I have to be careful what I say. I don't particularly love that idea. I had a view of what your thoughts might be on that. They're saying it's a new standard, but we know there are other locations where they haven't done it. They are telling us this is very important to them in context of, moving the branch. So what we would ask you to consider is that request. If you have suggestions as to an alternative, like privacy screening or using some kind of glass treatment that would provide them with the privacy or security that they're looking for without, closing off the branch, that's a long facade, and so we're a little worried about it. But we have to given our position in this situation, we have to advocate for it, and it could jeopardize the lease. That scares me, to be candid. But we would like your feedback on that, and I guess we could talk about all your questions at the end. But that's the one thing that we're a little worried about.
Okay, got it.
This is all the detail on signage, like hours and details of the logo and lobby hours and so on the doors. That's the number. At 6 inches and 51 and 3/4 inches across. This sits actually. Let me just go back for a second to show you where that is. I apologize. That sits above in the right hand corner of this door, the 1044, and that's in accordance with the town requirements now. And this is the typical. Signage for the ATM entry. No smoking. That's a building standard or bank requirement now. And that's it for the Bank of America signage application.
Okay, that's great, Dave. That's great. If you're done, we'll just go through the members one by one, and we'll have them also. Hopefully, some of them might be able to address your some other suggestions for the frosted glass option. So it's just the 2 wall signs, and then the door. Yeah, I think the door static cling work, which looks standard, and then the glass. Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Great. Thanks, David, so much. Okay, we're gonna go through one by one. I'm gonna start with David Humphrey again, and then next up will be David Riley. Dave Humphrey.
Yeah, hey, David. The frosted glass. Did they provide any images of a storefront that long that they have a branch with this frosted glass? It does seem like it would look, very monolithic with all of that frosted.
They did not. No, they did not. I think it's a relatively new policy. We were showing them images of branches in New York City that did not have this, and we were hopeful and are sort of hopeful that they would reconsider it, given, the fact that I think Darienne's a lot less of a security risk than, Midtown Manhattan, but.
Mm-hmm. And is the pattern in the frosted glass still up for discussion, or is it just kind of a single tone? That's what they're.
I think we've gone back and forth. Kate's kind of led the conversation with them on that. So if you all would not mind, if we could get her kind of direct feedback on that, it'd be great.
Yep.
Yeah.
So if just looking at the fit out, looking at the post road elevation, the two storefront glass bays furthest to the left on the post road facade are intended to be a film that grades. I think David had flipped through the example images. So those 2 bays are intended to fade from a more opaque up to a more transparent, and that's in what they are, calling out in their floor plan as break rooms, calling cubes, areas that are less of an issue with security. And then on the 3 bays to the right of that, on that mass, and the 2 bays adjacent to the entry door on the post road, those are called out as a fully, they're calling it a frit, but in reality it's the laminate that's attached. So it's a semi-transparent. The images that you're seeing here are images of the material, the actual spec they're proposing. We haven't really discussed alternatives, Dave, of, horizontal or vertical banding or, a fine grain of dots, that I know I've seen elsewhere, and as they sort of have corporate standards, this is their go-to material at the moment.
Yeah, that's tough then. Yeah, I'll let everyone else comment on it as well. But certainly that's something that I think we should probably try to help a suggestion with. Just one other minor comment looking at this, that building number 1044, I think that the 51 inches must be wrong, but I think that's just an oversight.
Yeah, I agree. That seems crazy. I don't know what should be, but that can't be.
That would be a big door, but
That doesn't make sense. It looks like it's maybe 12 inches long.
and so just to clarify, the frosting would only go up to where the mullion is, where the large mullion is. The break.
I think that's what the intention is. Yep.
Dave, as you mull on that, unless Dave Humphrey, you've got like something, an active thing you want to say, I'll keep moving on. You can hop back in. I don't want to cut you off.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Dave Riley. And next up will be Sean after that. Thank you.
Okay. Dave Riley talking. So yeah, I have no problem with the Bank of America signage on the two facades, nor the applied lettering on the doors to the ATM room, and the 51 inches. I think it's just a typo. The frosted glass aspect is kind of a curveball thrown at us to have to react to. I guess my question is, what about an interior window treatment such as a roller shade? Like you get Lutron shades that come down and can be integrated into the architecture. Is that something that was discussed with the Bank of America? Because that lends privacy. I don't see the frosted or the fritting as any security measure other than it just being, something to block the view in, and that can be done with the fabric.
I guess I should say, when I say security, I mean like privacy over like screens and financial documentation and so on. But I take your point, and we have suggested it. The only thing is, I must confess, I'm a little OCD, so I worry that having shades at all different heights along the post road will drive me completely bananas.
Well, they can be coordinated though.
Or, yeah, they could be put on a timer. Listen, I'm sure you sense in our presentation here some hesitation and concern. I think part of that is personal, and from our side, and part of it is also having worked with you all a lot over the years, and we have a sense of what your reactions may be. So I don't want to lead the witness. I don't want to do that. But I think if you have other suggestions or other considerations, if we went back to the Bank of America and said, potentially based on this conversation, that the signage proposal was approved, but the window treatment, needs to be reconsidered, we're happy to go advocate for that.
Dave Riley, anything else? Do you want to talk, or do you want me to come back to you and I can move on with Sean in the meantime?
I guess my only other thought on just an alternate to it just being a permanently frosted application is there is the electronic photosensitive or photo operated glass that you flip a switch and it becomes opaque. I mean, that could be an option again on a timer or whatever, so that it's not frosted all the time. I mean, then it at least has some ability to be controlled. So that would be my other, just take on it is, if we're talking about options, that would be another option.
Okay.
That's all.
Yeah, we've done that on in interior spaces, some office spaces, but yeah, that's an interesting product too.
Thanks, Dave. Sean Brown, and after that's Leslie. Sean?
The only question I have, David, is did they bring up anything about bulletproof glass or anything like that would end up darkening the glass anyway, naturally because of the thickness of the glass?
No, they've not.
Interesting.
And they've reviewed the base building drawings, so I think we're through that now. it'll be a typical storefront glass.
All right.
I don't have any other suggestions. I like the signage and the number over the door. But do you have on the side? Do you have a single door, or is it a double door on the Corbin Street side, out of the vestibule?
That's a double door.
The drawing with the signage has a double door, and on the floor layout it has a single.
I believe it's supposed to be the double door on both of those corners, but I can double check on that.
Yeah, that's showing a double right there.
Okay.
Yes. All right. And then my other question of the vestibule is, if they talking about the frosted glass across the offices, or are they talking frosted glass in the ATM vestibule area as well?
Just across the offices, right, Kate?
Yep. Yeah, the ATM vestibule is a clear glass with just the linear, markers so somebody doesn't walk into it. But on the interior, it's clear glass.
Anything else, Sean?
Okay. No other questions for me.
That's great. Thank you so much, Sean. Leslie, and after Leslie, we'll have Rita Gadsden.
Hi, I agree with Dave Riley. I think that maybe if you could do an interior treatment, it would be such a shame to kind of block off the sidewalk relationship with the building. So if there was something that you could do from the interior, I think that would be the way to go. Thank you.
Thanks, Leslie.
Okay. Thanks, Leslie. That's great. Rita Gadsden. After Rita, we've got Allison Hughes.
Well, Dave, I know how enthusiastic you are about moving the Bank of America to a new location, but I'm afraid I don't share that enthusiasm because, to me, all of the hope and excitement about the Corbin project was really about enlivening the street and making the Darien downtown more of a pedestrian thoroughfare. And my fear about this blocking off the whole row of glass with frosting, it immediately has the effect of deadening the street. And so you're going to go along that whole wall of frosted glass, then you get a curb cut, then you get another bank, then you have your building, 1020, then you have another bank with 2 curb cuts, then you have the church with the curb cut.
There's no, oh, you mean at First County Bank. I'm sorry, I was thinking about from the other side. I apologize.
Yeah, so I just feel so disappointed myself about, I share your enthusiasm about moving the bank, but I'm disappointed that this could be a tenant because I can't. I may remind our board that we several years ago had an applicant to do a massage parlor, and we were not enthusiastic because the windows were going to be all blacked off. So I don't know, but I can think I share other people's views that banking used to be something that you could look inside the room and you could see people and activity. And I regret that in a little town such as ours, that there's felt to be a need to block out all the windows. I'm very disappointed about that.
Well, I would remind you that we tried, and we came to you, I think, ages ago, and I don't know if you remember this part of the conversation, but the reason we bought the Chuck Steakhouse site was originally to put Bank of America there, and they had told us that they would go there. We bought the property, and then, it's a massive corporation. They have to big committee approvals, and it went to the committee, and it got rejected after we bought it. So we tried, just so you know, it's water under the bridge now, but we tried to move them because we share your concern. We tried, we failed, and this is really the best that we can do. And, it's been an enormous amount of work, and it's been frustrating at times, but, the way we're looking at it, and maybe it's just cold comfort, but that, it's to get rid of that monolithic building and create a lot of life on that end of the post road. Life's not perfect, and this is not ideal, but being able to get rid of that building and create this new 7-acre block of activity with lots of pedestrian activity, you'll be happy to know that as part of the agreement, we have agreed with Bank of America that we won't put another bank in the project. So there won't be another bank in that 7 acres. So in a way, we're losing a bank. We're moving a bank. We're not adding a bank. We are, though, to I think your point, putting it right, in the middle of that kind of prime block of downtown, which we don't love either. But in the scheme of things, that's what we have to do to make the whole project happen. We don't see an alternative. The only alternative would be to leave the gas station and leave the bank where it is. And I don't think this is materially worse than having the gas station there with 2 curb cuts. But I do take your point, and I understand your disappointment.
What if you reference your 10-20 approach where you had, you have a brass bar with cafe curtains? I'm not suggesting cafe curtains, but in the tradition of historic banking, what if you introduced something such as that, where you could have some privacy below, but some movement, not just a glass curtain?
To be candid, I've spent a lot of time with many, many, many people within Bank of America working on this. They are very, like many of these kind of big corporations, they're very focused on their brand standards. They've hired, 3 different architects to work on this since we've been involved. The most recent the final architect will be Gensler. And the way that, number 3 person in the bank described it to me a few months ago, they're moving more in the direction of making their bank branches look like a Sephora store than a typical branch. So I think the interior of this is, kind of going to be a work in progress. Literally, that they have hired the same architects who did the Sephora cosmetic stores to give their branches like this sleek, cool look. So, look, I don't know. It's you're dealing with brand standards from the largest bank in the world. It's not easy for us to tell them what to do, with their branch. But I think that as it relates to the frosting, you can be you have to express the collective opinion of the commission. We told them what we expected the response to be based upon our historical experience and interactions with you. And I don't think it will be a surprise, and then it'll just be up to us to try to navigate some sort of compromise.
Yeah, Dave, so I'm going to hop in there. Yeah, so it sounds like we're going to keep going with further questions. Rita, I don't want to cut you off. I'm going to let you finish up here. But you can already tell that, the general take from the board here, David, and is that the frosted glass isn't something we're going to be in favor of along this new development when we've worked so hard to create this pedestrian space. So in coming up with alternative ideas to them, I think that's what we have to focus on here, whether it's some sort of mirrored glass or some tinted glass or something that kind of is frosted to a certain level. But there's going to have to be some sort of compromise here or complete adaptation from an all frosted, opaque glass front along our main center strip of downtown Darien, right?
Yeah, we totally understand the response, and we're not surprised. I hope you can hear it in my voice.
Right, of course. So yeah, so I think the board's kind of alluding around this, and we'll try to come up with some solutions here. So Rita, not to cut you off, but any ideas or suggestions on?
I like the fabric idea that someone raised. I think if you say Sephora, well, that's a whole other. Maybe they could use this town, Darien, as their first deviation from the frosted glass and do something cool. And then just one other quick comment: the lettering on the doors. Here I go again, but it seems like so much information on the doors between the warnings about recordings and all of the, is that necessary? All that?
What we're advised on this stuff is that these are their corporate standards now.
Well, let me jump in on that, David. Is there a second interior door? Is there is there a porch? I'm missing the word here. I'm looking for a porch. You walk into a little vestibule where there's a second door where a large amount of this copy could then be had, or is it essential that it's all on the exterior door?
There is another interior door.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could say, we would prefer, you could maybe say, look, we understand your corporate standards are this, but we would prefer you put, that lettering on the interior door to the office or to the branch. If you could put it as like a preference, like we would prefer that, not it's required, but we would much prefer it.
Okay, so like maybe, so on the outer door, Rita, Rita, go ahead, please.
No, that would be much better, I think, because here we
like it's just cleaner.
Yeah.
To
I
go
don't
with
like
this,
a lot of.
to go with the Sephora look.
Listen, I don't even like the fact that we have to put the numbers on the doors personally, but that's just me.
Okay, and then one final question, then I'll stop. But does this curb cut mean the loss of those beautiful trees along your 1020?
No. This is reducing the size of the Gopher Park a bit, but we're keeping the Gopher Park, which has the Bradford pears in it.
Yep.
This is the drive-through, and actually we're getting rid of 2 curb cuts. Well, we're getting rid of 1 curb cut, I should say. We're getting rid of 1 curb cut where the gas station sits today.
Okay, and keeping the trees.
Well, we'll be adding trees along the post road.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Rita, thank you so much. Moving on, next we have Allison Hughes and then Sherry Green.
Hi, David. For the minutes, the lettering, the information on the door, was your suggestion to put that on an inner door? I'm sorry, I missed that.
Allison, I'll jump in on that and save you, David. I'm going to put in my letter that we prefer them to take the extended copy on the door and put it on the interior door, leaving for the outer door simply the hours.
Okay. One other question. What is the exterior material of that building?
It's brick and I think it's like an AZIC wood.
Red brick.
Yeah, red brick.
Yep. Okay. My only comment would be that the part of the frosting that I really don't like is the light color. I think that really jumps out to me. The white frosting.
I think what we could do is be back for another conversation around that isolated issue.
Okay. Signs are good. Okay, you can go on.
Thanks, Allison. That's great. Sherry Green and then Marion Castell.
Hi, David. Signage all looks good. I agree with Rita on all the information on the door.
For some reason, Siri, my Siri clicked in, and I couldn't. I apologize.
All right, I approve the signage on the door. I agree with Rita with all of the extraneous. It's probably not extraneous, but all the lettering on the doors. I'd love to see simplified. I have a suggestion. If and I understand, I'm reading through the lines of what you're up against with the frosted look. There is my neighbor in Westport came in. It was a design studio, and they had these beautiful windows, and they did the opaque frosted look. And I thought I was going to absolutely hate it, but it turned out to be reasonably attractive. But what it was were horizontal lines, probably maybe 10 inches, and then an inch of space. And they did the whole window. But I'm wondering if you could do, half of it, or make some sort of compromise with Bank of America. It was quite attractive for what it was. I mean, I'm not a fan of that frosted glass at all, but I did not mind these horizontal lines. And if they could be darker, to Allison's point, that might help. That would not be my first choice. I'm just throwing that out. I don't know if it's still there. The business is no longer.
Remember the name of the company, Sherry?
It was called Voice. I mean, it was a design firm. They're not there any longer. But my guess is that the window is. It was right next to. It's on the Post Road, right down from Urban Outfitters.
Okay.
Do you know where
Yeah, I know exactly where you are. I'm just trying to see if I can pull
by
it up.
Bitters, and then there's an alleyway that goes back to a parking lot in that location there. It's worth a drive. It's, you know, if you did, I wouldn't want the whole windows.
Okay.
That's great, Sherry. That's good. Another suggestion though, because I know what you're talking about.
And I think to Allison's point, if it were dark, I'm getting a feedback here, but
Right. No.
I'm getting a feedback here, but look at.
Okay.
Can everyone go on mute? I'm sorry, can everyone go on mute to eliminate this feedback we're getting here?
I'm getting big feedback here, so no.
Sherry, we're going to put everyone on mute but you.
Okay, I can't pull that up. I was trying to pull it up, but I can't do it. But I'll find it, and we'll be able to look at that more carefully, I think, for the future conversation on frosting or window treatment.
Okay.
Here, last up, we have Marion Castell.
I agree we should have more discussion in the future on the window treatment. I think you may have a potential of something interesting that would create a lively look to some degree. I also think that you talk about glass that you can't see through, and you have clear glass in the ATM machine. Maybe that's the area that you should have something a little bit less visible for people who might be outside. You could use a sort of a hidden glass there. And as I understand that, all the notifications on our doors are removable type. And so if you put it on the inner door, do we ask to have it that you can pull it off and change it? It won't be a permanent situation, even on the inner door. Isn't that correct? In terms of our regulations? We are able to have. We can have signs on the windows or the doors, but it's removable, and it's on the inside of the window. You see, on a lot of the people, people who they have a limited amount of signs on the outside, but they put more information in the window.
So you may not be able to regulate it anyway. But I think we try to see if we could put it on the inside door, away from the post road, so it wouldn't be visible. And I think if they're asking for something on the post road, that like the wall of glass, it's part of the whole conversation. The wall of bank branch on the first floor.
Right. Yep. Okay, that's all.
Okay, David, this is great. I'm going to sum this up. Sorry, does anyone else, before I wrap it up, does anyone else have any other comments now that this discussion has gone all the way through about the windows?
I would just say for the follow-up conversation. Sorry, this is David Brick.
Thanks, David.
If they feel strongly about it, I just, as I'm sure you would, ask them to come to the table with, either renderings or existing images or, some options. I think, if this is what they want to do, the compromise will be in the detail of, whether it's a gradient or whether there's some texture to it or pattern to it that, will kind of help us get more comfortable with it and you as well.
Okay. That's a totally fair request, and we agree.
Yeah, thank you, David Humphrey. I think, David Genovese, I think David Humphrey kind of wrapped that up beautifully. So across the board, you've got a favorable report for the wall signs. The door cling is approved as well, favorable report, except I'll put in the suggestion to move that copy, the bulk of the copy, to an interior door, leaving simply the logo and the hours to the outer. And then, as David summed up beautifully about our suggestions for pattern, gradient, tinting, maybe a fabric on timer for the windows. But as it's proposed, that's not something that sounds like our board is going to give a favorable report to right now. So we've got to find a common ground.
Okay, we understand.
Great, David, thank you. Okay, I know we've got to move on, but I got to put a pause here for everyone. It is 9:04 p.m. This is taking a little longer. Can I ask if on this call, I don't see anybody, but can I ask if our applicants for Spring Grove Cemetery or Paris Cafe are on the line?
I don't see them.
Yeah, I don't see them either, just making sure. Okay, so ARB members, I'm gonna just propose it. We can stop. I did issue a 9 p.m. deadline. We can stop right now and have a special meeting next week, or we can continue on and move this to 9:30 and finish up this final application here. These final 2 applications with Baywater Properties. That includes ARB 08 and ARB 04, which is a whole new application. So my question goes out to all ARB members. Are you guys in favor of continuing this meeting with Baywater and Genevieve's Properties now that we're on the line for another 30, 45 minutes? Or would you like to schedule a second special meeting next week? Anyone opposed to not continuing it on? Please raise your hand so I can see it. All right, so that means we're continuing on. So it is 9:04. David, I'm going to let you go on with your ARB 08, your proposal for the I, H, and K buildings, and then we'll continue on after that to your last project, the 04 for 34 Old Kings Highway. Sound good?
Okay.
Okay.
This next piece should be relatively straightforward. And we did the same kind of a meeting with
All right, sorry.
planning and zoning.
It's almost like because everyone's talking, it's taking longer.
Last week, I think it was. I'm lost in time and space in the coronavirus. But we went back to planning and zoning because having dug into the details, all the details now, with the various, hang on one second here, with the various, engineers and architects and so on, and having gotten into the nitty gritty, and having been dealing now with a number of tenants and the various property owners along Corbin Drive, our phase 2 of this project, or phase 1 rather, of this project involves the gas station property, the Wyckoff property behind it, which is occupied by Mathnasium and the Karate Studio right now, and the Tibbetts Law Office. We actually don't own those properties. We are partnering with the 3 property owners to redevelop those buildings. And so, to be clear, like when you see us here, we're representing the partnerships. We don't totally control these situations, but we came up with the idea and basically have now corralled this group of people to work with us to carry out the project, and we're investing with them in all the zoning work and all the design work, and we're going to be doing the construction and managing the buildings, but we don't actually own those buildings, so it's a little different than some of our other projects like 34 Old Kings Highway South, which we'll talk about. And so as we've been working through details, we've been basically, realizing that there were a couple of minor adjustments that needed to be made. So this presentation that we'll show you is basically, for the most part, the result of the refinement of the drawings, some back and forth with the property owners and the tenants like Bank of America. The refined height, a question we got from one member of the commission, I think it was today, just was questioning what the definitions were. So the refined height is really what we are proposing for the final height of the buildings. The entitlement height is what we had gotten approved when we presented the site plan to the town. And the resolution maximum is when we did the first step of this process where we actually created this Corbin sub area and got approval to build buildings of certain heights and underground parking and so on. That was the maximum height that was allowed. In all cases, our buildings are actually below the resolution maximum. So we came in and actually proposed buildings of a lesser height than we were allowed to build. In refining things and going through the details, we need to adjust all 3 of these first phase buildings. 2, we requested from P&Z permission to modestly increase the height, and I'll take you through that. And 1 building we lowered in height.
David, by the way, not to cut you off, but I think the board is pretty clear, on what you're saying, and I don't know if you need to give us as engrossed of an explanation to save yourself some time.
Oh, fine.
But I appreciate it, but I think it's pretty clear what you guys proposed, with the drawings you gave us here of what you had. I think the main question is going to be why this change, why this subtle change?
Sure. Yeah. Okay, so let me just take you through each of the buildings. So this is what we call Building I. This is the Bank of America building that we just talked about. That's the branch. This is the drive-through. The building below, the drawing below, is what we originally designed. And Binefield Architects was trying to basically, in the original design, and before Bank of America really engaged, they were trying to build a building that would be kind of a sister building to 1020 Post Road. So you can see it had a more residential look. on the post road. It had a typical storefront here. We thought the bank branch would be smaller, and we thought that this would be a different store. It turned out that the bank wanted the entire post road. And secondly, and most importantly, the owner of the building, Vinny Durentis, and his wife, Kathy, they did not like the dormer-style windows because they had seen the buildings at the apartments at 1020 Post Road, which have those windows. They're not as light. They're not as bright. The ceiling heights are lower. And so they wanted to do something different. And so we working with Bank of America and Vinny and all the various parties, came up with this redesign of the building, which gives us more of a full 2 stories. We still have the dormers, but they're expanded. The different storefront that you saw, and we increased, to accomplish this, the building height. We had to increase the building height by 8 inches. It's still 7.5 feet below the maximum we would be allowed. We presented this to the zoning commission a week or 2 ago, and they didn't have any problem with it. There's no change in the brick, no change in the roof materials. The storefront does change, as you saw. We'll be using the Bevelo lights that our kind of trademark light fixture, that gas fixture on the facade. But that's the summary of the changes for Building I. Do you want me to go through all of it and then go back for questions?
Yes. Sorry, Dave, on mute there. Yeah. Please.
The others are pretty easy. This is the one that's most significant.
I think you could sum up the others saying in a pretty similar fashion, right? It's
Yeah, I think they're quicker, actually. Here, I'll show you.
Yes.
So the next building, hold on, sorry. Building I,
H.
Hold on.
H.
Building H. The refined height, the final height was 47.2 feet. The entitlement height, what we presented at the P&Z, for site plan was 46.4 feet. The maximum was 50, so it's a 9-inch increase. This is the series of buildings that runs along Corbin Drive from the Bank of America building down. So that's what's proposed. This is what was approved. And then the last building, the Tibbetts building, the refined height was, the revised height, or the refined height, is 41.8 feet. The entitlement height was 44.5 feet. The resolution maximum was 50 feet. So we reduced this one by almost 3 feet. What we also did, because we had more time, when the bottom image is this one changed as well. The bottom image is the Corbin Drive elevation. You can see it had a door here and just typical kind of residential style windows. These are actually 2 stores. So this, when we thought this through further with Bruce Beinfield, this didn't really work. So the image above is the actual proposed with proper storefronts. This will be the entrance to the apartment building, and this will be a small store, and this will be a small store. So the basics of the building didn't change much. It's got a little bit different. These are garages. There's not stores here. Kate, weren't we talking about putting a door here too to make this kind of look symmetrical?
Yeah, we've been playing with the location of that door right now.
The elevation drops, right?
Yeah, we have a bit of an elevation drop. So we have that door actually exiting out the right side of the elevation that your cursor is on, into the small park where someone can exit out there and then come around to the front. But we may, we may sort of work in a symmetrical door instead.
So that's the summary of those changes.
And again, on the last 2 buildings, by the way, David, when you moved,
time and reflection.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. On the last 2 buildings on H and K, when you raise those heights, again, is it the pitch of did you change the pitch of the roof, or did the roof line shift it up those additional 9 inches?
No, I think, go ahead, Kate, sorry.
Yeah, so on building I, primarily what happened is that the first and second floors were squeezed down. The floor-to-floor heights were squeezed. there was also a small bit of play of the roof pitch itself. The architect wanted to be careful to keep the right look of the roof pitch, so it wasn't flat too much, but got a small amount of height out of that.
Yeah, the original drawings, we went back and forth on this. The original revision was substantially higher, and we had been working with Binefield over the last few weeks to get that kind of down as much as we could.
Okay, this is great. Okay, I'm just going to go right into questions. Thank you, guys. I'm going to start off in our normal order with David Humphrey and then David Riley. Dave Humphrey, can you lead us with any questions? Kate Perez, if you're talking, you're on mute, by the way.
I'm going to go to mute because my computer is operating.
That'd be great. All right, David Humphrey, please.
No questions, thanks.
All right,
Wait,
thank you.
Liz, could I just ask a procedural question, please?
Great, yes.
Is the ARB now reviewing the changes to the height of the building, or are we reviewing the changed design of the building?
We're actually going to consider everything.
Oh, okay.
David Riley?
Yeah, that was my exact question. Because the height question, I don't think is really I have no exception to that. I don't think there's any detraction, and I think there are some improvements in the height. But it's in the scheme of things, in the scale of the buildings, it's very, very minor, and it falls within regulations, so I don't have any problem with it. What I would like to address is some of these facade changes, because there are substantial changes on the facades. I mean, I think the roofs are kind of more minor in comparison to what's been done, at the base level, particularly, building H, I guess is the longer one. But the proposed, just this kind of relentless series of storefronts going on now. So the approved version was not in our packet. So this is the first look that I'm having at I see the proposed. So what are we commenting on here? Is it the proposed or the approved? I mean, I'm a little confused on that point.
The proposed.
The proposed, because you've already reviewed the approved drawings, and you approved those, I think a year and a half, 2 years ago.
So wait a minute. So I'm sorry. It's just memory being what it is. It's just a little.
But by the way, I think to that point, guys, so the reason you see the approved and proposed is because we don't need to. We've had a chance to comment on this a long time ago in our comments there. Now so really what you should be looking at is the changes made and not the whole building as a whole, because we've seen this before. We've approved it, so we don't need to be putting Baywater through this same song and dance again. But that's the idea.
I agree. Yeah, and I want to limit my comments, so that's why I just want to be clear on what the change that we're looking at. Okay, so this is what was approved. So the clock tower has been changed. I mean,
we took the height of the clock tower down. So
I just without having the approved reference when I was reviewing this last night, I'm kind of
Dave Riley.
At a little.
Do you want me to come back to you, Dave Riley, while you look this over a second more?
No, I think I can sum it up.
Okay.
The more openness of the ground floor level, I think is nice in some ways. Probably on the building H, it's more in keeping with the approved. If you go to building K, I think again what was approved and what is being proposed, I guess we need to clarify that. And we got a pretty good echo. So going to what's proposed on the above elevation, south elevation, My only comment is, like,
You're
in
gonna need one of
taking
those
those
cookies
kind of
to
more
put all that.
residential windows away and making
Right,
it more
excuse
storefront.
yourself. You
The
gotta
center
excuse yourself, I
section,
think.
that's
You
still
gotta
an
take a pause
entry
and
to
walk
the upper
over.
floors. I don't think I would treat that as much as storefront. I would, in some ways, almost limit the amount of glass in the center bay, have a door, maybe a more traditional door, maybe something with a pediment over it to mark the entry that's distinguished from the two stores. It just seems like that, again, it gets into that idea, this kind of relentless storefront. And this is a mixed use application, so I would like to see some of that sensibility to what's happening in the above floors make its way to the ground floor.
I like that. I like that point. I like that point a lot, actually. So I've got to sell it to our architect, but I think that's actually a really good point because it could be a little confusing, for the residents or retail people. And the last thing we want is for a retail visitor to go through the residential door by mistake. I mean, it'll have security, but I like that point.
I think it needs to be distinguished. I think there's an invitation there that could be utilized. So that's it. I'm going to limit my comments to that. But thank you. I mean, it's all looking very nice.
Thank you so much, Dave Riley. We can come back to you if something else pops up. Next up, we have Sean Brown, then Leslie.
I'm going to pass on this one right now. Thanks.
Okay. Leslie, and then Rita.
It looks good. Thank you. No comment.
Okay. Rita, and then Allison.
Well, I guess I sound pretty obtuse, but I do remember we did approve the original plans, and I did not realize when I went through the packet, when I was looking at all these new storefronts, I thought, well, I must have missed some chapter because I didn't recall seeing any design revisions in the last year. So I only can say that I guess I'm a little overwhelmed, and I would need time to look at the designs. I thought we were only looking at the building height, and I was confused as to why the storefronts looked so different, the ground levels. So I don't really have anything to add except that to David's point, I think some of the storefronts haven't enhanced the original design. That's all.
Okay.
I can't.
Okay, thank you, Rita. Allison, and then Sherry.
I like the addition of the storefronts. I think it's good function-wise, and I think the buildings look fine as proposed.
Thank you, Allison. We have Sherry and then Marion.
I would just like to second David Riley's idea. I think that would be a very good suggestion to consider.
Reference to, I think that was Building K, right, Dave Riley and Genevieve, about a central door with a more distinguished door to demarcate the residential versus commercial.
Right.
Agreed.
Yes.
Okay. Great.
I think what we did in candor, I think what we did, having had time to think about it more, was we said to this looks too residential. It's not going to function as a retail storefront.
Right.
And we kind of went too far. And I like the idea. The whole idea of this was to make sure that when you go down that street, you have the experience of walking past buildings. You're also looking at this it almost looks monolithic from the elevation that you're staring at, but you're never going to experience these buildings in that way. You're going to be walking up and down Corbin Drive, and keep in mind, you'll have blade signs, different signage, different storefronts. It's going to present totally differently when it's actually kind of finished and occupied. But I think Dave's comment's really a good one.
I agree with that.
Thank you, Sherry. Last year, Marion Castell.
I agree with Dave in terms of putting a residential entry to that vast expanse of doors. I would think you would do another entry in another building that's residential. I don't see that having a residential entrance spattered within the storefronts is going to take away from the look of those buildings. And I think it's an awful lot of glass all lined up. And I think breaking it up with a different kind of front for the apartments above. And I don't know, where are they going to come in? I mean, where are the apartment people? They have a special entrance in their rear, or how are they getting in?
They have a garage entrance from the back, and then you'll see this on the next. Actually, we have it in here, I think, too. Maybe. Did you take away my screen share?
Yeah, we can pop it up for a quick second.
Do you need it? Let me give it back to you, David.
I can have it back. Yeah, that'd be helpful. I think I could just address Marion's concern or question.
Well, maybe have another entrance and to break up so much of the lines. And
I totally agree with that, Marion.
No, I'm talking about building H too. I mean, you might.
Building H.
Another entrance for the residents on that street, and then I wondered. And I feel the same way Rita did. I didn't realize we were going to approve this whole thing, and I think it's different than what was approved before. But is there a way that you could?
I think when you look at it, I mean, look, if you want us to come back and talk about this another night, this isn't as mission critical or time critical unless, well, I shouldn't say that. We're trying to finalize the construction drawings so that we can start construction in September of this project, which means we've got to get the drawings done and out into the market for bidding. This building, the entrance to this building is not on Corbin Drive, the residential entrance. The residential entrance for this building is facing the Center Street parking lot.
You're talking about building H?
Building H, yeah.
Right. Okay.
So, but I don't think the changes to the storefronts are really that material. I think we lowered the clock tower, but I mean, if we look at the approved versus
the clock tower's gone.
Well, it's lowered. I don't know. I guess the clock is gone, but the feature is still there.
Gone. It's gone. I mean, if we want to approve this side of the building, why approve this side of the building? Why are we not approving the other side? I'm sorry about this repeat.
No, that's okay. I mean, I guess we didn't think that the changes were that material relative to everything. You know, the store.
What does the other side look like? Did we approve that a couple of years ago? I don't remember it, unfortunately.
Yeah. We did a full architectural review discussion.
All right.
So, this is the proposed, proposed version.
Yeah. Well, you have a.
So, I'm going to hop in there. Mary, not to cut you off, but we have seen this, we have approved this. But as you guys know, David always works with us. If we get, I might need you guys all on mute here, but if you guys seem overwhelmed by this, and if we walk away from this and later to the point, if members of the board say, I was uncomfortable with that, I feel like I need to see something that again, I'm sure David would be more than willing to come back and show us stuff and discuss this with us. But that said, I don't want to put these guys through the ring around too much. They have come, we have approved, so we have seen this. We are just seeing changes to what we've approved. So I know if those changes then affect how the whole building takes you, that's one thing, right? But I do want to try to limit that to some degree, but not to suppress anyone's comments if you really feel like we're missing something here. So, Marianne, continue on if you have more comments there. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
That's it. I think that I was a little overwhelmed as well. And I like the idea of putting residential touch in the other building, and I'm wondering about building H2. I would like to look at it again somehow. I'm sorry.
David,
sorry, I was on mute. Why don't you take, if you're going to have another meeting in a couple of weeks, or when is your next meeting? It's in June, right?
We have a meeting scheduled in May for May 19th.
Oh,
so
why don't you take a look at it? I mean, Kate, you tell me if you think this is a bad suggestion, but I mean, I guess I'm pretty confident that when you look closely at this, it's a little overwhelming, especially if you didn't have a copy of the approved versus the proposed in the packages you received. I'm pretty confident that when you look at this, I think you'll agree that the changes, other than the height, are not, there wasn't really much materially changed. I think we're probably okay if we come back, in May. I think we're okay. We're just juggling a lot of property owners, Bank of America, the tenants we're relocating in the town.
Yeah, David, I personally am not okay with you guys coming back. I'd rather not see you. I'd rather continue this on and let you guys move. We need to get these things through. We will have a jam-packed meeting in May as well. If people have larger concerns and you guys still want to speak up here, I don't know if we can take away the sharing screen for a second so I can see everyone's face all at once. If anyone wants to raise their hand and go through more comments, I'd like now to be the time. And if someone is truly uncomfortable, then we can bring David back. I'm definitely okay with that. I just don't want to drag this out any further. The longer we look at these things, of course, we're going to find stuff. Anyone want to raise their hand and say another concern or idea or propose another solution? If someone wants to make a motion for them coming back, that's okay. No. Okay. Marion?
Yeah, it's all right. As long as you break up that front a little bit with one entrance and maybe on the other building.
Would it be okay if we asked Finefield to do some sketches of that entrance and just send it to you by email for your consideration?
Yeah, that'd be great. Take the email.
Yeah, I was just going to say that.
Yeah, I'm okay doing that.
There are more changes than that, I think, between Building H. It's different.
You think Building H there's too much massing and needs some sort of like street breakup? Is that kind of what you're getting at, Marianne? Or
I'm saying it's the clock tower is gone, and then there's another little tower in the original one. There is some differences. I didn't realize I was going to have to talk about it. So but I do think my first feeling is if you could break up that long line of store windows once on Building H, might not hurt. You might break it up a little bit.
I think what will also happen though is as the tenant conversations ensue, like the reality is signage and storefronts are going to get tweaked. We're going to end up back talking to you about different storefronts because we want it to look. We don't want it. We've learned from our mistakes in the past. We don't want it to look repetitive. So.
I think the tenants would like to look in a building and feel as if there's some entrance on the Corbin Drive as well. It's not their backyard. They want this as a front sometimes, maybe. I don't know.
David, have Finefield make that change. And if they want to readdress or maybe possibly consider buildings H and I while they're looking at that there is a little hesitation here on the board. Maybe it might just be a sense of overwhelmment seeing this again after 2 years. But send us what you have, send it to planning and zoning, and we'll take it from here.
Okay.
Allison?
Not a problem.
I think it was building not H and I, but
A. It's the Tibbetts building.
H and K, wasn't it? H and K.
Yep.
Okay.
Not a problem.
So, David, I'll write you a note, and it sounds like the board does support. It sounds like you have board support approval here, but the fact that you're already going to send us some stuff, so this is kind of an ongoing conversation. Maybe I'll kind of put that in our letter to you that this is still kind of entertaining it, but overall you have a favorable report from the board, and we want you to continue on with the process and not slow this thing up.
Yep. Okay. Understood.
Great. Okay, guys.
You want to go to 34?
I'm sorry, David. One more time.
You want to try to go to 34 Old Kings Highway South?
Yeah, can we? Is there anyone opposed to continuing on? There's one last thing while we're here. I'd rather stay on board and we're having a special meeting next week.
Let's go.
Is Paris Cafe still on the agenda?
They're not. We are going to take away Paris Cafe and Spring Grove Cemetery. They're being pushed to the May 19th meeting. They are not in attendance. Okay. So continuing on, we are now at ARB 04 2020. It's 34 Old Kings Highway South. Again, it's a construction of a new building proposed by Baywater Properties. So again, David, please introduce yourself and your role in Baywater and what you guys are doing.
So David Genovese, Baywater Properties, founder of Baywater Properties. With me on the call is also Colin Grothier from Finefield Architecture. Colin, did you sign in?
I did.
Colin, can you spell your name for us for the note taking and say your role at Finefield?
Sure. It's COLINGROTHEER. I typed it in the
got it. Yep.
Whatever
I
this
see
is. Go to meeting thing too.
Yep.
Senior Associate Finefield Architecture.
Okay.
So Colin has been working with us on the Corbin project for the last 3 years, and also worked with us on 745 Post Road, and has been great and a pleasure to be with and work with. We are under contract to acquire the building at 34 Old Kings Highway South. I'm just going to jump around for a second. It's this little residential building that was converted into an office next to 36 Old Kings Highway South. You know, we bought in 2007 the medical building at 36 Old Kings Highway South, which looked like this until recently. And then working with you and Vinefield, we renovated that building from the inside and out, and finished it a few months ago to modernize it, and it looks like this now. 34 Old Kings Highway South sits adjacent to 36. As part of our Corbin redevelopment project, we are proposing to reconfigure the parking lot, again, a second time behind 1020 and 36 Old Kings Highway South, in a manner that would allow us to create more parking. And so by buying this building, it allowed us, this is the actual property line, this triangular shaped land. By buying this building, we were able to take down that sort of, old residential building that's been used as a private office for the last 15 or so years, and to create a more modern office building, which actually we're going to move our offices to. What we're hoping to do is sort of continue the pattern of improvement from 36 Old Kings Highway, from what it was to what it is, from here, and in the back it looks quite ratty, into something much more interesting and a bit more modern. And so with that, I'll turn it over to, Colin, I'll change the slides if you want to talk through the design. And you just tell me when to make changes to the slide.
Sure. So you picked up the context, so I got to skip ahead in my notes to where you are. The rendering. So this is a rendering looking from the common parking. The idea is to play off of the modern buildings that flank this at 36 and the other office building, and the glass, and to kind of contrast and create a counterpoint to the traditional architecture that's going on in the Corbin district. And also, I think David's going to talk a little bit about the site connection later on in the proposal at the end of this, where we're having the Corbin landscape architects look at the public plaza that's proposed on the corner of Old Kings Highway and the public access drive off of that to the rear parking lot that's on the east side of this building. So what you're seeing now is the north facade. It's just a very regimented composition of windows that address natural light into the building and the private offices that are on that facade. The side that's facing the public parking has a covered awning for the main entry, and then large windows that allow light on the, I believe that's the north side of the building. And then we're accentuating the elevator core, which is that element on the right that kind of projects a little bit higher, and then kind of concealing and also providing some transparency and some differentiation in the height and the massings of the building with that solid corner as it conceals part of the interior circulation stair. The top portion of that building is access to a roof amenity terrace for the office tenants. The composition of the facade is primarily being looked at as fiber cement, a durable, thicker panel than like your typical hardy panels. So it's not that lap siding. It's being thought of as the more rigid, more panelized product. So a little bit more specialty, and probably a regular rhythm of fasteners or concealed clips. We're going to be looking at a glass and steel canopy, and potentially a folded metal canopy of some sort, metal windows with probably an operable sash in places, and matching divided light shop front or similar window system. And then,
Colin, can I interrupt you for 1 sec?
yeah, sure.
I'm just, this is all of our kind of first time doing an architectural review, at least my first time doing an architectural review board meeting via Zoom. So we're in sort of uncharted waters. Given the nature of the materials that we're proposing here, what I think I'd like to suggest, Liz, is that we make the materials available to you however might be convenient. So we could leave them at town hall, material samples, so that
We're
if people
talking about
wanted to see,
material
because it's
samples
not
where they
party
can
plank,
leave
it's not a
them, we can
typical
stop by
material
and
that
see
you're
them.
used to seeing. And I just want to make sure that, as a result of the nature of how we're conducting this meeting, that you're not, being asked to make a decision you're not comfortable with without seeing it. Or
Yeah.
we could give you addresses that you could look at in the area, and you could see examples of this material, in place elsewhere.
That's great. Yeah. And post this meeting, Dave Keating informs me that we can put aside a special area here in the lobby of Town Hall, in the amended new lobby here of Town Hall, where these things will sit just for this project, and people can come and go in the next week and examine those elements.
Yeah, there's a similar panel, and Colin can confirm if I have this right, but there's a building that was constructed. It's the new headquarters of Compass Real Estate in Westport, and it's at 54 Wilton Road, right next to Bartaco, and that.
Oh, right. Yep.
That facade is the same. That's the same material that we're talking about. So if you wanted to go drive by in Westport and see it, you could do that, and that'd be probably the best place to see the standing material.
Great. Okay.
Yeah, so that I think, David, you're right, is a very good example of just one of the thicker, more high quality fiber cement panelized products. So that pretty much closes out my summary of the materials. These are just some other visual examples of how these read with a little bit of a gap reveal between the panels, and you can see that some of these have the exposed fasteners, like this image we're looking at now. We can move on to the next slide. The site plan is just fairly basic. It's a little bit of a wedge-shaped site, so the building is somewhat trapezoidal in nature and a little irregular. The parking's at the back towards the public parking, and then there's this public plaza that is being reconceived from what you've received to be a little bit more integrated with the Corbin District design philosophy.
Well, just to remind you of what's there today, there's parking in front today that's kind of hodgepodge. And what's happening, we're creating a bit of a mess for ourselves, but I think in the long run it will be worth the pain. We hired a different landscape architect. We hired Eric Rains to help us with the landscape design for this project. And Eric did a wonderful job kind of laying out the sidewalks and the entryway. We have two different landscape architects working with us on the Corbin project, a group called Towers Goldie out of New Haven, and then a sort of sole practitioner, sort of very spirited, creative guy, more of an artist named Dennis Dale from Massachusetts. So we have the two Corbin architects, landscape architects working, and we had the other architect working here. And what's happened is, as everybody started to kind of focus on refining and finishing the plans for Corbin, everybody was sort of looking around saying, how do we unify this and make it better as a whole, and create kind of the best possible situation and integrate these projects. So my computer is acting strangely. It's not showing me the image I want to show you right now, but let's see if it'll come up. Oh, here we go. So this shows you, the building K that we were talking about with with that entrance we were discussing, changing the residential entrance. This is the original landscape design, and it's been tweaked a little bit. And we're going to come back to you also and talk to you about this landscaping when it's further refined. But the architects came up with an idea of creating like a bosque in this side of Corbin, or of Old Kings Highway South rather, to create a really nice venue that the public or the residents of this property could enjoy. And so those architects have sort of been looking across 36 Old Kings Highway toward 34, and they sort of came upon the idea of this being 34 what if we were to integrate the three and create a public plaza in front of 34 that's, more rectilinear?
So David, you don't have a landscape, a full architectural landscape plan right now. This is just ideas. Right now, you just have the building itself.
Yes, exactly.
That's okay.
I think we have to come back to you. We're trying to go to zoning in June. We have a hearing date in June for the building.
Okay.
We're totally happy to come back with more refined and detailed ideas. But I'm sharing with you some color for your general feedback if you like. If you'd rather put that on another night because there's enough to talk about with the building, that's fine too. But I wanted to give you a sense of how this is kind of being considered and what we're thinking about, which would be to kind of create these three new, wonderful outdoor amenities that don't exist today.
I love that, David. Are you guys done with your presentation, or can we jump into some questions about this?
Happy to jump into questions unless Colin has other comments he'd like to make on the building design.
No, I think the elevations there tell the story, and the rendering was covered two of them already. So it's the south is just a repetition essentially of the north minus the stair differentiation, and then the east we've got an expansive window that just looks out over Old Kings Highway and this new public plaza and the Good Wives River watershed across the street. So
let me help you though, just to orient yourselves, because as much as I've worked on this, I sometimes got confused for a while. This facade, this elevation is what faces the Center Street parking lot. So this is what one would see looking at the building from 1020 Post Road, from the back of 1020 Post Road. This is the facade that faces Old Kings Highway South. Remember, as Colin said, the site is trapezoidal, so it's irregular shape. It's really triangular, but it's broader, it's wider on Old Kings Highway South. So this faces Old Kings Highway South. This is the elevation facing the driveway from Old Kings Highway South into the Center Street lot, in between 34 and 30 Old Kings Highway South. And then this is the facade that faces 36 Old Kings Highway South, which, is going to be pretty close to 36. So it's not, there's not a lot of room. I forget the exact distance. It might be 6 or 8 feet. It's not much.
I think it's less. I think it's 5 or 6.
That's great. That's great orientation, guys. That really helps. David Humphrey, can you kick it off for us? And then David Riley.
Yeah, you don't have anything that, so I think, kind of on its own is a very, very interesting design. I think it'll help to see the material,
How close is
either some photos or, I'll do my best to get there and see it in person.
How close is it?
Because that's a big part of this design, just based on its massing. It seems to kind of somewhat tie with the building next door, which I think is interesting. I was just wondering whether you have anything that shows, visually yet, a sketch how it plays with the new development, because obviously you have an opportunity to kind of,
I'm leaving it off mute.
do this all at once. I think the landscaping, using that to tie these two together is a smart idea. But just wondering whether you have any sketches yet that might show,
I'll say it.
How I guess it would just be the back of the building, how that ties in visually with the rest of the new development.
So I can go just in case.
No, we haven't developed anything like that yet.
Okay.
I think that's something we can have the landscape group look at. They started with that view of, covering the back area, the park area of 34, looking in the direction of the new development. And one of the items that, is a unifying item that they really wanted to incorporate into both the area around Building K and this new building is a low stone wall. And, again, the landscape person that David mentioned, Dennis Dale out of Massachusetts, has a really great, eye and attention, attention to detail, and, has some great ideas about how to articulate sort of a low stone wall that can carry property, really wrap over to the building area, and just have some of those small sort of unifying elements. But I hear what you're saying, seeing those buildings in a row, all the way to the corner in a little bit more detail would be helpful.
David Humphrey, anything else, or do you want to wrap that up?
The I think the kind of the rendering, the sketch, seems like the proportions might be a little different than what the elevation actually shows. I don't know, maybe it's just the way the sketch is drawn, but yeah, so that upper right, corner just looks a little different. To be a little taller in shape than what that front rendering shows, which I think kind of would help a little bit because the rendering feels kind of heavy, but it seems like it reads differently than that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I like that.
There you go.
Okay, you can circle back to that, Dave Humphreys. You have ideas. I like where you're going with that. David Riley, can you pitch it? And then after that, we've got Sean Brown.
Yeah, I would Dave Humphrey, as far as just really wanting to look at these siding materials, because I mean that is such a major component. And I just a note, and I put it in the chat, is that our packet had shown it originally as being Ipe 1x6 Ipe cladding. So going to a fiber cement, which I did do on a project in Bridgehampton with a blind fastening system, so it can be a very crisp and modern look. But there's so many variables there that I think some sort of a little bit more of a comprehensive study about what some of those variables can be, I think is warranted in this case, because the joints on a clad system, a fiber cement system, are so important with the way the overall scale of the building is perceived. And some of the images you showed us showed more rectangular panels, some more vertical panels. The 1x6 Ipe cladding image I thought was appropriate for this building, the way it's depicted, at least in the elevations, is that we've got these very narrow linear lines, this kind of built up facade with these punched in windows. So I just, without really seeing that really depicted, it's hard to really comment on the overall materiality of the building. I think the massing and the fenestration are really well
What are they suggesting? Did you hear?
Kind of reminds me of Bauhaus
All right.
sensibility to it.
Just chatting.
So my only comment is further study of what some variations on the cladding, both from a size, direction, and even color standpoint.
Yeah, I confess I chickened out on the Ipe wood.
Well, I think you could run into some longevity issues there. I mean, it would last long, but you'd have to. There's a lot of upkeep on that if you want to keep it looking the way the picture was showing, or you let it weather, which is it's an option. But it's a pretty major change to go from the Ipe to a fiber cement.
Yeah, and that that was a late. That's on us. I mean, we are definitely not functioning as normally as we would given this remote work situation that we're all under. But that was my audible a couple weeks ago that I wanted to kind of look at this in a different way, and I just got nervous about the potential for the variation of how it would age, given the fact that we're so close to the 36 Old Kings Highway facade, and the way the light's going to hit it is going to be so variable. I just worried we'd have like different aging patterns on the wood, and it would just look inconsistent and be impossible.
Actually, just let me jump in on the Oxbridge school presentation. Slam had a aluminum material that had a wood texture to it. Maybe that's worth considering. I mean, I thought that was a kind of a very appropriate material for that application. It could have its application here, and that would give you that. I think the Ipe look could be very nice. It would give you this warmth next to 36, which has this kind of gray, steely, cold sort of aspect to it to kind of pull this warming element into that streetscape. Could kind of accentuate that sort of garden, frontage to Old King Highway South.
Dave Riley,
I'm more in favor of having a warmer material as opposed to the fiber cement.
Dave Riley, I'm going to kind of cut you off. I think you've made some good points because I got to keep this thing moving. But I think your point is, like you said, a further study on some variances of the material and colors, and probably considering like a wood, an alternative wood, faux wood.
Okay, to sum it up, stick to the warm colors.
Okay.
Yep.
That's great. Thank you, Dave Riley. I don't mean to cut you off, but I do. Sorry. Sean Brown and then Leslie.
Hey, this is Sean. Looking at the renderings, looking at the architectural plans, and looking at the neighborhood of the, really specific office buildings on this particular end of Old Kings Highway South, I just have one really crazy question. Do you think the windows on the sides, in comparison to the front and the rear, are too small? And I looked at I looked at the layout of the offices, trying to decide whether the windows could be, maybe 6 inches wider, and reduce the mullions between, like the spandrel pieces between, to give it really a more, modern, 2020 glass look, where, you're looking at buildings that have visual light all the way through. I don't know. I just because I was looking at the front and the rear, and I'm thinking, wow, it might be nice to have even more glass.
So it's interesting you make that point. We started with a very different building. We started with an almost like a glass building. To be blunt, like we had a cost issue with that. The cost was astronomical, but more importantly, because of the proximity to the distance to 36 Old Kings Highway South, and then the distance to that drive exit, there were building code issues Kate could articulate, or Colin and Kate could articulate better than I, but there were some building code issues that limited the amount of glass we could have on each of those facades, and so that idea got kind of kiboshed by the building code consultant. Colin, am I articulating that right? It was both sides.
Yeah, it was both sides.
So we tried, and cost was the first gasp, but then the building code consultant put the nail in the coffin on that for us.
And Colin, I'm not sure if you have this information on hand. I'm just looking at the window sizes of those, the windows in those offices, but I want to say they're
pretty big. They're like 4.5 by, I want to say, almost 8 feet.
Right, and so we also wanted you to, be considerate of the people in those offices. Of, if the office space is 10 by 10-ish, having a 4 or 4.5 foot high window by, 7 feet, whatever that height is a pretty big window in that, in that size office space. And if somebody has a file cabinet they want to have or hide, or a stack of papers they want to hide, with the more glassy approach, there's nowhere to hide your stuff. So we wanted to just be mindful of having some solid area, in those office spaces.
Yeah, but everybody who works for Baywater doesn't use paper.
I wish.
Can we go on to Leslie and then Rita Gadsden?
Sure. Hi. I loved the Bosque idea. I thought that was a fabulous way to kind of take Boomerang around the corner. I wonder if you can take it to the other side of Old Kings Highway as well, to kind of take down the noise level of 95.
So on this this area across the street is actually a drainage system that we're building in connection with the project.
Right.
And then this area is for now that community garden.
Right.
that we are loath to change. The gardeners, the farmers that are squatting on there right now are hoping that we don't touch their farm.
Right.
They've been located once, but it's possible that over time we could do it. I mean, I think Kate, didn't Dennis come up with some ideas for the other side of the street, and we said, let's just survive this development first, and then look at extending our reach further over time, but get through this first.
Yeah, our landscape architect had the same idea and jumped across, and we do have a couple ideas for over there. It does have to function as a stormwater retention, but beyond that, we said that we would reopen the book on ideas over there once we got phase 2 in construction, so that we see a light at the end of that tunnel, and then we'll cross the street on Old Kings Highway. But I think there are some plantings associated with that stormwater drainage, and I would just have to look into the details of what those are.
You also have, and Marion Castell can say, confirmed, the oldest tree in Darien is right along this area, Marion. I think Lincoln passed it on his way to. I read her.
Isn't it up closer to the dentist's office?
It's in that area.
Yeah.
Anyway, for this 34 Old Kings Highway, I'd like to see the landscape plan and outdoor lighting.
Yep.
Kate, maybe you could speak to the outdoor lighting, because that's being developed too.
Let's not speak to that. So I don't mean to cut Kate off on that, Dave, but if you guys are going to come back and show more of a landscape plan, maybe we can look at that all together then. Okay.
Yep, no problem.
Thanks, Leslie. All right, Rita and then Allison.
Hi. Okay. Two things. Let's hear it for Old Kings Highway South. I mean, I'd like to see a continuation of the alley of trees, and I'm surprised that you have elected to turn your back on the street and not have any form of entrance on Old Kings Highway, and you're calling it 34 Old Kings Highway South, but so suddenly everyone has to go and enter in the main entrance facing the parking area. So I would just offer a suggestion that perhaps some form of pedestrian entrance into the building, could that be something you would consider? It just seems odd to me to create a new building. I know that the building adjacent you inherited in a way, and you renovated it very handsomely, but here's a new opportunity to create a building, and not having an entrance to me seems very odd. As you walk down that street and you have all these beautiful trees and mirrored glass buildings, and I just think from a planning standpoint, it's unfortunate to not have an entrance.
Yeah, I just think that given the fact that the parking is on the other side of the building, just the way people are going to end up, for the most part, parking to visit, other than visitors who might park on Old Kings Highway South, it seemed to us more logical to go from the other side and just be consistent with what is happening at 36. But I understand your point. I don't know. I don't think we could do both.
So if you're walking from the train station or you're walking from a new residence, you have to go through the parking lot, right?
Yeah, but if you're coming from the train station, you're probably going to go walk down the Post Road and then come down the driveway between First County and 1020 Post Road and walk through the municipal lot to the building. I think that's what's likely to happen. You might come down Corbin Drive, but then you're walking further.
Right.
I think it's something worth looking into, David. I actually will support Rita, and to keep it moving too. I think that's something. I really like that comment, Rita. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit like the library, where you now have to drive to our library. You can't really walk on the Post Road and go in an entrance there. It seems just so odd to me in a small town. But anyway, that's my comment. So.
Next up, Allison, and then Sherry.
No comments.
Sherry, and then Marion.
I just have a quick comment. I very much like the way the building looks. And if I ever get back to Connecticut, I'd like to see the building material because I'm not familiar with it. But I approved the building. I think it looks great. That's
Okay.
it.
Got it. Thanks, here. Marion?
I like the building too, and I agree it's the same of getting the materials and either some good photographs that could be sent to the Carolinas maybe would help Jerry. And I think we need to think about the pros and cons of the materials. I think have been pretty well discussed of the material at the moment. And of course, the landscaping and the lighting and so you want to just get the planning and zoning to approve this, and then we'll come back later and do the lighting and at another time, or do you want to try that before the planning and zoning?
I think, why don't you leave, let's see, we're working, a lot on the Corbin project as well, and Colin and Kate and I can talk about it tomorrow. If we can present in May, that would be great. If you're too busy, I think what we could probably, does it seem that we could maybe say something to the effect of, the building is generally approved by ARB, subject to review of materials and then landscape design?
Yeah.
And caveat Rita's point, we can explore, the possibility of a different entrance. We kind of settled on this interior floor plan also, so I'm struggling to get excited about that. But I to be candid, but I never say never, and I want to kind of give every consideration. You guys have guided us well in the past.
David, I think you summed that up beautifully. Let's get you. I'll tell Dave Keating right now. I'll get you on the May 19th agenda to come back and revisit this with the suggestions we talked about.
And then we could be very laser focused, so I don't think we'll need that much time, and we could even send you some materials in the meantime.
Right.
And we'll get you an email with the addresses of a couple of buildings if you have time and you're looking for something to do in the quarantine. Get out of the house in your own car.
Go for a drive.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea.
I love that.
And and you guys might consider and play with Rita's idea too in there. I think that there could be some likes. Okay, good. I guess that's it. David, thank you for your time. You guys will.
Thank you all so much for your time.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, David. And
Thank you.
Okay. Good night. Stay safe, everybody.
Okay, thanks, Colin.
You too. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, ARB members, it's late.
Double check and see if there's anybody for Spring Grove.
I do not see anybody on for Spring Grove Cemetery or for our Paris Cafe. So we're moving on for approval of minutes. Can I get a vote for everyone go off mute, please? And can I get approval of minutes? Yes, yay, or nay?
Yeah.
Any nays?
Excellent.
Great. Any nays? No. Okay, thanks. That means the minutes are approved. No other business because this is a special meeting, and I would love to do a vote for adjournment. If I could get all your votes for approval for adjournment, then we will be done at voices. All right, 10:08 p.m. Thank you guys so much for your time. Good night, everybody.
Thank you.